seems like I was dropping too many black pills on everyone, but hey, you know, it is what it is.
Hey, maybe it was Black Pill Thursday. What do you?
Yeah, that's kind of what it's going to start turning into, I think. But it needs to be done.
Pill. Yes,
the black pill.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you, Mother. Thank you. Yes, she's looking after my audio needs today. My sound engineer's living up in Inverness. Who knew? But yeah, I hope we've got all of our audio issues sorted out right now. It's looking good on this end. We're looking good. And for anyone that's new to Freaky Friday, then maybe you haven't tried our chat room out over at tfrlive.com. And it's a really special place because I remember back in the day when I was just listening to shows, and I remember walking around work and I was listening to some crazy character doing a show called The Freedom Link. Didn't really know the guy that well at that point. But then I heard my name getting shouted out on a radio show. And I tell you, it was the best feeling in the world. And it was like one of those dopamine squirts that Jimmy talks about. So if you want to get your name shouted out on the show, that's okay. You just got to head on over to tfrlive.com/chat. Now, we're not trying to kind of hoodwink you into kind of having to pay to get into a chat room or anything. No, all free. So if you head on over there right now, I'll head in there. And Scotty, before I do, what a day, brother. What a day. Because when I had Ben on the show the other night, we were talking about, there was rumours going around the ufology community. There were rumours afoot that the New York Times was getting ready to release something major, something massive, something that could actually put the whole 2017 ATIP revelations, even forget about that. And Scott, we're going to get into that after I do the chat room today, because the article is here.
You're gonna leave me hanging like that, are you?
I'll leave you hanging with the thought of the Pentagon and people talking about possibly off-world vehicles that have been retrieved. Yes, with that said, oh, indeed.
Okay.
Yes, indeedy. So if I come down here, go into the chat room, wow, dang, it's getting longer and longer every week. But that's okay, because we have got first up Sophia the robot. Let's get the non-human out of the way first. Then we've got BAM, paradoxical anomaly, cold brews. Oh, I could do one of them. We've got Buzzacino in there, long time listener. We've got Gemini, Mr. Right Now, Richie, Tito, I like that one. We got CJ in there, Lancifer, Polly was on last week, brilliant show. We've got the Epic Journey Man as well, Lewis, Psycho Dave, Armand, big shout out to you, dude. Melissa, Darryl, Big D, I like that. And what's this? Kindred or kind character. I like that one. But I think Lancifer gets it for me. There's something about Lancifer. I kind of like that. It's kind of cool.
It's a play off of a sinister name.
Very ooga booga sinister one. So, gents, are we ready to discuss the big kind of disclosure news in the room? Many times have I talked about disclosure in the past few years. It's been countless. But there's definitely something going on. We done a stream the other day. We were talking about the second last card, the asteroids. They're still on the way, or maybe not. And now, the much talked about, the much anticipated article. And it goes a little something like this. No longer in the shadows. The Pentagon's UFO unit will make some public findings. Wait? You mean the ATIP program that we were told ended in 2012? Say it didn't just carry on under a different name, right? So, for over a decade, the program, now tucked inside the Office of Naval Intelligence, has discussed mysterious events in classified briefings. So I'm not going to go through all of this in a oneer. A couple of paragraphs. I'll get Jimmy's thoughts. I'll get Scotty's thoughts as well. But we've got Despite Pentagon statements that it disbanded a once covert program to investigate identified flying objects, the effort remains underway. Pretty bold opening paragraph, we're only halfway through it. Renamed and tucked inside the Office of Naval Intelligence, where officials continue to study mystifying encounters between military pilots and unidentified aerial vehicles. The Pentagon officials will not discuss the program, which is not classified, but deals with classified matters. Yet it appeared last month in a Senate committee report outlining spending on the nation's intelligence agencies for the coming year. And the report said the program, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, what a chat-up line that is. If you're in a bar in Washington and you're hitting some chick with that as your job title, I reckon you're going to succeed. And it was to standardise collection and reporting of sightings of unexplained aerial vehicles, and was to report at least some of its findings to the public within 180 days after passage of the Intelligence Authorization Act. So while retired officials involved with the effort, including Harry Reid, the former Senate Majority Leader, hope the program will seek evidence of vehicles from other worlds. Its main focus is on discovering whether another nation, especially any potential adversary, is using breakout aviation technology that could threaten the United States. So Senator Marco Rubio, the Florida Republican, who is the acting chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, told a CBS affiliate in Miami this month that he was primarily concerned about reports of unidentified aircraft over American military bases, and that it was in the government's interest to find out who was responsible. Now, he expressed concerns that China or Russia or some other adversary had made some technological leap that allows them to conduct this sort of activity. So Mr. Rubio said of the unidentified aerial vehicles over US bases possibly exhibited technologies not in the American arsenal. But he also noted maybe there is a completely sort of boring explanation for it, but we need to find out, and I'm going to break off there. Come to you first, Mr. Scotty, and Rubio talking about that. We've got the Space Force out there. Are we just maybe looking at some kind of posturing for bigger budgets coming up and things like that? Space Force? I don't know, Scott. What's your initial thoughts? So before we get to the real juicy stuff, and I'll get Jimmy here too.
Yeah, see, the whole thing with this whole, what was it called? ATIP? Wasn't that kind of the...
Just the tip. Yeah, just the tip, yeah. Scott.
Yeah.
It's a tip. It's literally just the tip.
Exactly. This whole thing, it provides a source of plausible deniability on all fronts, because they can say that they're doing this to study or to see if opposing countries, if a nation like China or Russia may be involved in some black project or breakout technology or whatever. So they can use it for that in order to justify more funding and defense spending and all of that. But what if it's not Russia or China? And what if it actually is an outside, let's just say extraterrestrial, otherworldly technology they're dealing with here? Well, they can still use that talking point that, oh, we're just looking at what other countries are doing, you know what I mean? So it takes people's eye off the ball when it comes to that. Or maybe they really are looking at what other countries are doing, and it just, I think it enables them to cover all bases on whatever kind of explanation that they want to put out there, or reasoning for doing this stuff. They can throw it out there now. Me personally, I don't know. I think a large percentage of this stuff is actually like black project technology that governments are working on, right? And there's a very, very kind of small percentage of actual unexplained phenomena, you know, and they're just kind of able to play on the whole disclosure, UFO interest stuff in order to continue doing what they do. You know, I mean, we're talking about the government here. They are masters of psyops and deceiving the public and all of that stuff. And so all of a sudden, when it sounds like they just decided to do a 180 and they're willing to start disclosing information and provide, you know, and it's like, nah, I'm not buying that. They're not just doing this out of the good of their hearts and just letting everybody know what's going on now. I think there's a much deeper operation going on here, actually. And you know, what is it that they're trying to cover up? That's all I want to know. What are they trying to cover up, Kev?
No,
what are they
covering? Trying to cover
Jimmy?
something up. They are. Jimmy boy, let's get your take then. But what do you think on what Scotty said and the story so far? Remember, we're still to get to the real good bit.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm reminded of these tales of old that these off-world or from inner Earth entities disclose 3 chunks of information, and each one of them in and of themselves wouldn't create the whole. You would have to come together as a world for all those 3 pieces of the puzzle to fit together. But I think, you know, since that time, I mean, if you look back at a lot of there's a lot of Russian videos, you know, in regards to craft. I think by this time in 2020, with the help of computing power, I think we can extrapolate the missing pieces, fill in the holes, and I think you know, there's a lot of craft flying around that is military. I think it's interesting too about China. Have you ever even heard of a UFO crash in China? I've never heard of one, but I just, you know, they have a certain...
Their media, I can't think of a crash off my head, but I know their media, they seem to take a different attitude to it. They kind of report that kind of stuff more than we used to before the whole thing changed. But it's always kind of troubled me how it was conveniently, you know, just where the Navy had pilots filming and things like that, and the Tic Tac video. And I don't know, I am pretty much of the idea, the thinking that maybe 90% of what we see, what we would class as unidentified, probably more terrestrial kind of programs they're coming from. Now, we're going through that Great Reset thing. New technologies are bound to come our way. Maybe this is a way of slowly bringing us up to speed. But I'm always wary, guys. I'm always wary because, as we're going to discover as we go on with this article and we're playing our couple of clips and things, these people here are the very people that were like hiding all of the information that we're trying to get to.
That's immediately like when this whole thing first kicked off, this whole A-tip thing, the Navy video came out. Yeah. The Navy video.
Was that Jimmy?
No, I was going to say, I was wondering how much Tic Tac had to pay to get him to use that as the description, it could have been a ping pong ball, but why do they call it a tic tac?
I bet you they were high-fiving themselves at tick tack, tick tack, tick tock, tick tack.
There you go, Jimmy. You figured it out, man. That's the conspiracy. This was all run by the Tic Tac Corporation in order to sell more candy, dude.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. You've sussed it, boys. You've absolutely sussed it out.
Where's my Tic Tacs?
You've debunked it already, and now we can just go home now. But listen, right, I'm going to get to what I think is very interesting, okay? So it says in 2017, the New York Times disclosed the existence of the predecessor unit, the aforementioned Just the Tip program. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. Defense Department officials said at the time that the unit and its $22 million in funding had lapsed after 2012. Back to sleep, people. We stopped then. No, they didn't. People working with the program, however, said it was still in operation in 2017 and beyond. Statements later confirmed by the Defense Department. Now, the program was begun in 2007 under the Defense Intelligence Agency and was then placed within the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, which remains responsible for its oversight. But its coordination with the intelligence community will be carried out by the Office of Naval Intelligence, as described in the Senate budget bill. And the program never lapsed in those years, but little was disclosed about the post-2017 operations. The Pentagon program's previous director, my good mate, Luis Elizondo, a former military intelligence officer who is still contracted to the Department of Defense, may I hasten to add, who resigned in October 2017, from that role, after 10 years working with the program, and confirmed that the new task force evolved from the Advanced Aerospace Program. It no longer has to hide in the shadows, said Mr. Elizondo. It will have new transparency. Oh yeah, look at me. I'm really, really optimistic about that. Mr. Elizondo is among a small group of former spooks and scientists with security clearances. And by scientists, they're talking about people like Hal Puthoff. You know, just people like that. Go and look into him. And without presenting physical proof, say they are convinced that objects of undetermined origin have crashed on Earth with materials retrieved for study. For more than a decade, the Pentagon program has been conducting classified briefings for congressional committees, aerospace company executives, and other government officials, according to interviews with program participants and unclassified briefing documents. And in some cases, earthly explanations have been found for previously unexplained incidents. Even lacking a plausible terrestrial explanation does not make an extraterrestrial one, the most likely, astrophysicists say. And it says Mr. Reid, the former Democratic senator from Nevada who pushed the funding for the earlier Just the Tip program when he was majority leader, said he believed that crashes of objects of unknown origins may have occurred and that retrieved materials should be studied. Says, after looking into this, I came to the conclusion that there were reports. Some were substantive, some not so substantive. That there were actual materials that the government and the private sector had in their possession. No crash artifacts have publicly produced or been publicly produced for independent verification. Some retrieved objects, such as unusual metallic fragments, were later identified from laboratory studies as man-made. And Eric W. Davis, we talked about him earlier on in the year, Scott. He was one of the people that there was a memo that was going around. I think it was the Admiral Wilson memo. And it was a conversation that took place, you know, hushed rooms. I think it was the back of a car, like something like the Men in Black, you know, deep throat stuff, telling about what was going on with crash retrieval stuff. So It says here, Eric W. Davis, an astrophysicist who worked as a subcontractor and then a consultant for the Pentagon UFO program since 2007, said, in some cases, explanations for the materials had so far failed to determine their source and led them to conclude we couldn't make it ourselves. So the constraints on discussing classified programs and the ambiguity of information cited in classified slides from the briefings have put officials who studied UFOs in a position of stating their views without presenting any hard evidence. And this is where we're getting good. Mr. Davis, who now works for Aerospace Corporation, a defense contractor, said he gave classified briefings to a Defense Department agency as recently as March about retrievals from off-world vehicles not made on this Earth.
Very interesting.
We've got a couple of minutes before the break, my good friend. What do you guys make of this one? The plot thickens.
It does. It does thicken.
The woo stew is boiling well.
The woo stew is boiling. Obviously the government.
It smells like fish, but it tastes like chicken too. I gotta say, it's really good.
I wonder what aliens do taste like. Just on a side note, if it's chicken, they might be doomed. I know they've got a taste for cow.
Well, I don't know. I hear human flesh tastes like pork, so maybe they're throwing some few people on the barbecue.
Maybe. You never know. You never know, Jimmy. You never know. So we're almost on the break, and we'll come back on the other side, and I'll get Jimmy to give us his thoughts first of all before we finish this story. We'll take a listen to what Luis Elizondo is saying about perhaps we need to think about mankind being only one of, not mankind, but many kind. Yeah, because when Elizondo speaks, we should listen, right? He's just the tip. We'll come back after the break. Don't go anywhere. There we go. So then, Jimmy, we're on the break now. I seen you had your picture up there. That was looking very good, that painting you've got there. I'll need to find you a little GIF that I can put over you when you're doing your PPP rituals. Yes.
I know. Well, that was a Spanish king.
Why have you got a painting of a Spanish king in your grotto there, James?
Well, actually, I've been, Spain is an interesting character simply because if you notice, when you look back in history, throughout all the secret societies and all the different stuff that goes on, you don't hear anything about Spain. And there's a reason why. It's the same reason you don't hear anything about the Hindus. There's a lot of secret history in Spain. And it's pretty intense. There's a lot of bloodlines that go through there. It's a super intense.
Yeah, Spain is. That's where my bloodline traces back to.
Oh, sweet, Scott.
Don't lie, it's Scotland. Lopez, you are a Mick Lopez. I'm telling you, man.
Well, look, man. Oh, look, I've got.
Hey.
Hey.
Are you shaking your TikToks at me? PPP. Thumbs up, folks.
Thank you so much, Jason. Much appreciated.
On my mom's side, it's Scottish, and then on my biological father's side, it's Spanish. And I'm talking like
that's a fiery combination, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like Spaniard because there's people on my Mexican side of the family. They don't really look Mexican. They look more European, and there's a lot of blue eyes on that side of the family.
Do you get ginger Mexicans, dude? Do you get? I know you get one ginger Mexican, Canelo, the boxer. He's blatantly a ginger dude. But is that like a common thing? I wouldn't think you get many ginger Mexicans, right?
Well, my brother, when he lets his beard grow out, it starts. it starts turning ginger in the sun.
Nice. I've
That's
got a
that
little bit. I've
sun.
got a little sheen. I've got a little, like, every 10 hairs or so is a nice Scottish ginger one. Gives it a nice shine in the sun, Jimmy.
It's so funny. It's so funny because he's like Mexican, right? And he starts getting this ginger look on his beard, and it's just kind of bizarre looking. And then he also gets mistaken for being an Arab.
No, not good.
There's a bunch of negative bloodlines in Spain too, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was some red.
That's where you get a lot of the blue eyes and stuff in Spain.
Yes. Now, folks, Streamlabs, I'd forgot the actual name of the program we're using there. It updated today, okay? So that's why we had a bit of an issue at the start of the show. I apologize, but I know you people, you're all really cool with that, and you never missed anything. You just missed the creepy music that we played at the start, a little bit of talking, but none of the content, no. And if you could do me a big favor, then please just share this link right now before we go back to the mothership. Yes, here we go, folks. I'm getting ready to beam us in, Scotty. You liking our new graphics here, Scott? Yes.
I'm liking it. I like the wind effect that you put on the trees.
You like that? That's just a still image with my new ninja skills that I'm developing, man.
See, you're doing a little bit of warp animation.
Yes, a little bit of glow effect, you know. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Part 2 of today's Freaky Friday, and this is the start of a Woo Fest right here on TFR Live. Because myself and Scott, we don't feel bad at all about being the warm-up act for our good friend. Whoa! And we've got blue chickens too.
Trigger warning. Going to die if blue chickens go MSM. Shalom, gents. Much love, chat.
Brian,
PPP.
there's more chance of me going mainstream than the blue fellas. I'm telling you, I am. But yeah, this is like the start of a massive marathon of paranormal, supernatural, out there kind of conversation. And I managed to check in on Brent the other night. I think it was last night, actually, over on his YouTube channel. You always know what you're getting, Scott. Always know what you're getting. It's just the good paranormal stuff. I think they were talking about EVPs, the one I was listening to. Hey, more again. Wow. Bison.
FF to the PPP. Skolo KB and Jimmy G Spliff and T.O.
I tell you, we could like make a song out of all the people, like the statements that they make. So yeah, folks, I'm gonna
What's up, TJ?
Yeah, to kind of boil it down, condense it a little. I could sit here and talk for the full segment about Brent, but we've got to get back into it. All you got to do to hear him, though, it's not hard. Don't go anywhere after this show. He comes on right after this. So then, Jimmy, I'll come to you.
Well, I was just about to say, if you want the meat and potatoes of Woo, that's Brent.
It's the ectoplasmic sauce.
We're the appetizer. We're the appetizer that comes out. We're like that bowl of deep fried mushrooms that comes out.
Garlic
beforehand.
mushrooms, man.
Mm-hmm.
Garlic mushrooms. Oh, nice. So then, let's get back into it. Before I finish this article, Jimmy, then, off-world vehicle retrievals. What on earth's name's going on? This is all the stuff Kev Baker's been living for. So why, Jimmy, is my little gut telling me and my spidey senses, they're like, something's not right here. And it's 2020 after all. If it's going to happen, right, be it fake, be it real disclosure, it's going to be this year, surely.
Well, I mean, as you guys both know, I'm a big believer of the inner Earth theory, just simply because if I was a super smart alien who didn't think in human terms, I don't think I'd necessarily I wouldn't travel across the universe in a spaceship, like they did, they traveled in their little canoes across the oceans looking for new lands. I don't think aliens would be inspired the same way that human beings are. But I do believe advanced civilizations lived on Earth prior to us being here, and I think at some point they might have had to go inside because something was going to happen. And I think that I think they come from inside, if you ask me. I mean, if you were to ask me. So yes, I think maybe they found some technology, but maybe it wasn't off-world, it was in-world.
Very interesting. I covered a story the other day about Mexico, Scott, and a group of people that believe their small town has been protected from hurricanes and storms for the past 30 to 40 years, protected by an underwater, interdimensional alien base. And what gets even better about this story, Scott, is they speak to the local mayor, or sorry, he's the head of the local UFO people, right? And he says, you know, even if it's not there, there's enough of us believe in it now that it doesn't matter. And I thought that's brilliant. I was like, they've tulped a base. They've given themselves, they've tulped up an alien base, dude. But that was a nice little story, you know? And it ties in with what we talk about. You get people focused. People believe you're protected by a magnetic shield that the aliens have put there. And, well, I tell you, there hasn't been any major storms since, like, before the alien base got thought up. Go figure.
Yeah. No, and look, I'm kind of with Jimmy on this as well. I mean, I think I've brought this up before that why do we always think that these craft and, you know, these UFOs are coming from outside of our planet? You know, they could easily be coming from deep inner earth sort of caves or, you know, wherever you know they're living down there, because I like to entertain the inner earth or porous earth, as I kind of like to refer to it as. I like to entertain that idea as well. And if you notice with a lot of these UFO sightings, right, it's always lights and craft that are seen coming out of the side of mountains, right? And so this would suggest to me that you're talking about these craft, you know, taking off and landing or you know, entering and exiting the side of a mountain, you know.
Yeah, Scott. And plus, when you think about it, the magnetics, you know, if you had a super high understanding of vibrational technology and magnetics, which they apparently have, you know, in the past. So, I mean, it would make perfect sense, Scotty.
Well, boys, hang on, Jimmy. You've brought something to the table here. I mean, come on, man. We're talking about inner Earth, alien bases underwater. Jimmy, what
blue holes?
What have you posted here? Tell us, man. What is this?
Yeah, scientists found some mysterious blue holes.
I apologize, Jimmy. I apologize. I was expecting some before it's Newslink or something like that. This is like the real deal, man.
Hey, man, you know, I'm coming to the table. Hey, I come back to Freaky Friday. I got to come correct, right?
Oh, man, we're loving it, dude. You're coming back again. I'm liking this, Scott. I was expecting above top secret, but this is like good woo. Jimmy, come on, tell us what's happening 425 feet below the water's surface.
Man, well, you got the article there. I'd suggest you just give them the facts and figures right there. Don't even waste time. Eliminate the middleman. Eliminate the middle.
It comes from ABC News. It says scientists flock to mysterious blue hole off Florida's Gulf Coast. Scientists are flocking to Florida's Gulf Coast for a glimpse of a mysterious 425 feet deep blue hole on the ocean floor. Now, the glowing mystery hole. I am so immature. About 155 feet below the water's surface is similar. Just a tip. Similar to the sinkholes.
Are they down there researching it, Kev? Is just the tip down there researching the hole?
Could be, dude. It's similar to the sinkholes seen on solid land, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, as we usually call them. Not Joa, but NOAA. So the site, dubbed the Green Banana, has been a hot topic for scientists and deep-sea explorers who've been hoping for a glimpse of the phenomenon thus or from afar. Now I'm confused. They've called a blue hole a green banana, but that's okay. Surprisingly, it's all Florida. It's a Florida man that named it. So surprisingly, the first reports of blue holes came from fishermen and recreational divers, not scientists or researchers. In general, the holes appear to host diverse biological communities full of marine life, including corals, sponges, mollusks, sea turtles, and sharks. So NOAA scientists have already collected 17 water samples from the area surrounding the hole, along with 4 sediment samples. Now, hang on, let me just stop there. We usually talk about sinkholes on Earth. That's like a drain, is it not? I mean, come on, where's that going to?
See, yeah, these blue holes they're pretty crazy because they open up, and then where do they lead to? Who knows? This is where we kind of start getting into the whole talk of underwater caves and this porous earth situation where, do we really know like to what extent like the network of caves and tunnels and stuff under the earth's crust, how far does that extend and to what extent is that? I mean, you've talked about, Kev, how there's the tunnels that connect Scotland all the way to Turkey, and this gets into the Nessie stuff about are there access points to the lock that come from the ocean or other areas? It's
that the lock has a hole that goes into the inner earth, because I mean, realistically, a lot of the Nessie kind of descriptions sort of mimic what was said by Admiral Byrd in his dissertation about what he saw when he flew into that hole up there,
Jimmy, it's weird you say that, because anecdotally, you ask the locals how deep Loch Ness is and they'll laugh at you, because they'll tell you it's bottomless. Now, I know it's not bottomless, right? But the reason we say that is because of the sheer kind of cliff faces you fall off. And then it's not only that, but it goes underneath. So you've got these caves that go underneath as well. So is it bottomless? Technically, no. However, who knows what leads off from down there? And
say it might not be bottomless, but you're gonna have a very hard time finding where it ends. Let's just put it that way. And I mean, like I said, I'm with Jimmy on this. I mean, there could be a tunnel or a cave or something that connects to a much deeper, larger underwater, or basically an underground aquifer of some kind, like a deep underwater or under the crust, a deep lake where maybe these creatures live, and they're able to access kind of the surface through these underwater tunnels, and they'll sometimes pop up in Loch Ness.
They accidentally find their way, and then they come up for air or whatever, and then they go back down and go back where they came from. I think the idea of these USOs, underwater submersibles, is interesting, man, because there's a lot of I've seen videos, like I saw this Portuguese fishing ship where these dudes are all yelling at each other, and all of a sudden this UFO just goes and just goes right into the water, and then these helicopters fly in, and all these guys are yelling at each other and everything. I mean, I swear to God, it looked real. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos. This was not no green screen type of scenario. I mean, it was a full on. If it was faked, it was.
Wait till you see my fake alien video I'm gonna make. It's gonna be epic. It's gonna be epic. It really is, man.
We're gonna pull a social experiment Jimmy. Kev's gonna crack out the After Effects and see how convincing he can make a UFO video, and then we're gonna see if it goes viral. But we're gonna announce it here first that we're putting it out that it is fake. But we're gonna see how
small. We're too small for anyone to actually pay any attention. You know?
No, I think it's a brilliant idea. I was going to start a game show called Liar Liar and have 3 people, 2 of them telling lies and 1 of them telling the truth, and to see if people could pick out which one was telling the truth. But I think it's a great idea. I let me know what I can do to help support it.
No, trust me. Sure. The Jedi skills are improving daily, and I've got the model. I've seen the 3D model I can use, and
well, you see, I have a 1950s Waikiki Beach behind me here.
So here we go. We'll get back into that. I'm really kind of blown away by this. It says, remarkably, they also discovered 2 dead but intact small-toothed sawfish, an endangered species at the bottom of the hole, according to NOAA. What would have been even cooler if they had found already extinct fish? It would be like the merging of 2 realms, you know. Oh, booga booga. So, remains of one of the animals were recovered for examination. Now, NOAA scientists plan to embark on a new mission to a second, deeper area of the hole in August. And that mission will consist of a team of scientists from Moat Marine Laboratory, Florida Atlantic University, Georgia Institute of Technology, and the U.S. Geological Society, according to NOAA. Researchers are interested in studying the seawater chemistry in the holes for its unique qualities. Little is known about blue holes due to their lack of accessibility and unknown distribution and abundance. So they're pretty much everywhere. They're just usually places we don't see them, Scott, or we can't get down to them because they're too deep or whatever's going on.
Yeah, they're just hard to access. I mean, they're literally a deep. It's just hard to explore them.
Look,
you know, there's some that are more.
Look at that. But also
And
looking.
This reminds me of that story, Scotty. You remember that story about the thing out by Malibu where they said they thought they found an underground UFO base out of Malibu, California? It's about 3 years ago. I mean, let me search.
Yeah, that one's that there was I'm trying to think. Rob Lowe, the Lowe files. They went and checked that out. Clyde Lewis, he spoke about that a lot as well. Yeah, but no, it turns out he done the Low Files. It was a show that was on TV, actually doing things like Freaky Friday. So if you're gonna laugh at Rob Lowe, you're laughing at yourself because we're talking about all the same topics.
I'm laughing at Rob Lowe just because I used to see Rob Lowe quite a bit.
But it's not a UFO base. That's my point. It's like, remember we were talking about people were stealing sand, Scotty? Remember, it all came about this. I didn't even know it was a thing that people stole sand because of the price of sand or whatever. But turns out that after they sent the underwater vehicles down, didn't turn out to be a base, unfortunately. I wish it was.
There was a whole bunch of talk up here in the Monterey Bay area about a bunch of holes that all of a sudden appeared. Recently too. I forgot about it until just this moment when you mentioned that story right there. They found a bunch of holes up here in Monterey. I'll search it up.
That's interesting.
Bunch of holes. I mean, who knows why? It sounds like, it's a uniform thing that happens, like these cattle mutilations. You know, there's been a whole bunch of those cattle mutilations again up in Oregon, and they seem to have a similar, track. It's the same sort of thing on the cows. It's the same sort of thing with the holes. There's quite a bit of activity up there in Northern California in those mountains, like Big Sur down where Monterey is up here. There's a Raytheon/TRW facility up here in the mountains of Boulder Creek, and there's been a bunch of people up here. I've never seen it. I'm just relaying. So it's secondhand information. So take it for what it's worth. And people smoke a lot of weed. People do smoke a lot of weed up here, but people say they see black triangles up here all the time.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, because that area of California, I mean, that's a lot of like aerospace defense and a lot of, they got a lot of facilities out there. Government has a lot of test bases and all of that. I mean, it's like that area of California into Nevada and then extending like probably all the way into New Mexico and stuff where all the basically all that testing takes place. I mean, there's no doubt that you're going to see a lot of black project, secret craft flying around out there. I mean, remember for years, the B-2 bomber was what the mysterious black triangle that a lot of people saw were, throughout the years. It was the B-2 because it was the flying wing, and it was being reported as a UFO. Until the government finally acknowledged unveiled the B-2 in the 80s, but that thing has been worked on since the early 70s, something like that, late 60s, early 70s.
These reports that were coming out of here weren't like a flat triangle. These were 3D, like 3-sided pyramids.
Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like they saw some flat thing flying around. These were actual, shaped like a pyramid with a flat bottom, a 3-sided pyramid, not a 4-sided.
That's weird. I remember the one in Belgium, probably one of the most famous images of an alleged TR-3B. I say alleged because the guy that actually done the photograph, he came out years later and he explained how he done it and then got attacked by the UFO community saying that he was lying. They paid him off, he was lying, he didn't fake it at all. Can't win. Do you know what I mean? But that shape there, from what I'm led to believe, that's meant to be your, like you said, one of the classified ones that we don't know about yet,
Yeah, I mean, but that's a lot of the classic, sightings. A lot of the classic reports are of the black triangle or the V-shaped, the giant V-shaped wing craft or whatever that's flying over. But I find it interesting what Jimmy said about these kind of recent sightings, that it's like it's almost like like two pyramids stuck to each other at its base, right? Like what would that be? Like a 6-sided die, No,
I'm going to show you something here. If you take a look at this here, right? I'll post this image over at TFR if I can.
Kim, there's another interesting thing. If you took a 6-sided die and you looked at it sideways from a distance, doesn't that kind of look like a tic-tac?
I would say this thing here looks more like a tic-tac. Like
a diamond shape, kind of?
Yeah. This here... these
if you're looking at it...
these documents, man, these probably go a long way to explaining a lot of what we're seeing. And the documents I'm talking about are patents that are for... It's a drive technology. Basically, for lack of a better term, anti-gravity type stuff. And the type of maneuvers that you see in the Tic Tac video. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Again, I don't know. When I did see that shape, though, and then you look at the kind of Tic Tac video that we're used to seeing, folks, you can't see it at home. It's just basically Tic Tac shaped. And then there's other ones that are triangular. And just a little bit to explain where these come from. It's the United States Secretary of Navy is listed as the assignee on several radical aviation technologies patented by an aerospace engineer working at the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, NORCAD, and that's headquarters in Potomac. Is that? I have no idea. Something River in Maryland. Patua? Patuant?
Yeah, something. That's a very
Yeah,
interesting.
it's a weird one. So one of these patents describes a hybrid aerospace underwater craft.
Oh,
Yes,
interesting.
claimed to be capable of truly extraordinary feats of speed and maneuverability in air and water and outer space alike, thanks to revolutionary electromagnetic propulsion system. Now, this comes from the Drive, way back last year.
The thing is, when you don't have to make accommodations for a person,
Exactly.
you got a whole world that opens up to you as far as what's possible, because a human being can't withstand some of the things that go on at high speeds, like what's capable.
When you get into this drive, Jimmy, this like takes care of the whole inertia thing. You're literally in a bubble. Do you know what I mean? It's bizarre.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, it's a really long one, but I'd advise people to go and take a look at this. Really interesting.
It's what Doc Miller talks about with the cavitation point.
Yeah, big time. Yeah,
it's cavitation.
Yep. Room temperature superconductor system for use on a hybrid aerospace undersea craft. Now, that room temperature superconducting system's really interesting to me, because that's the language that me and Anthony Patch would go looking for when we were talking about the potential for you having a quantum computer, like scaled down and not the size of a D-wave and not needing it to be as cold as the space. Superconductors. Why superconductors? Because charge goes both ways. And when those charges go both ways on this thing, the idea is that creates that cavity that Jimmy's on about. And you're literally not in space and time. You're in a little bubble, kind of, and space and time's folded around you. It's weird, it's bizarre, it could be the explanation, though, to some of the avionics that we see from the Tic Tac. I'm just saying, I don't know, though. So we'll be back after the break. 1 hour down. I need coffee. Oh, 2 hours to go. Right here on your Freaky Friday. Don't go anywhere, folks. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's a really interesting article, folks. Make of it what you will. But pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I gotta get me some coffee, boys.
So do I. So do I. Scotty, I will be... I'll shove some music on, shall I, for a moment?
Yep,
Please
sounds good. Sounds good.
Sounds good. So, folks, I'll be back in a little second. Look at that groovy new graphics we've got going on there. What can I say? I've got some really creepy music for you as well. Get a load of this. Ooh, booga booga.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Back. Yes, boys. But that's I'll drop you guys that article. Really good read. There's a guy called Professor Simon, I think his name is. Hey, Jason, thank you very much, brother. Thank you very, very much. Loving the graphics, dude. If you need me to do anything for you, I'm loving escaping everything going on in the world and just diving into a bit of art. I've never been an artsy guy in my life, Scott.
So now you
see, that's the benefit of being locked down.
You want to see that? You want to see this? You want to see this here? Look, this is my pride and joy. Look at that. Look at that.
Cool.
Wow. I love it, man.
Yes.
Badass.
Yes, indeedy. Indeedy.
Okay.
There
Yeah,
we
no
go. Right. We got time now. Where are we?
Let's just say when you got extra time on your hands.
Yes. Exactly. And we all have a lot of that right now.
Yeah, you get to discover all your hidden. See, you got esoteric qualities, Kev, that you're not aware of.
There we go. I've got radio qualities that I know we need to get back to. There we go. Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Better late than never. I remembered to wake the Wookiee up during the break. He was snoring away, and I thought, come on, you. It's Friday, one day a week you work. Get to work. So we're back.
Does he have a sore throat? It sounds like he has a sore throat or something.
Yeah, we've got a kind of hybrid Wookiee. It's a bit of an Andy Wookiee. I love the Andy Wookiee. And of course, we'll be getting Andy and Jason back real soon as well. I love it when those guys come on too. Jason, you never know what kind of woo that man is looking into. Now he's got into this whole exploring thing, Scotty. He's gone out to old forts, down tunnels with strange men. I fear for him. I fear we might lose him one of these times, but so far so good. He's always made it home. He's promised me he's taking his mace spray with him, and if it gets real bad, he's going to phone me. What I can do, I don't know though. Moral of the story, don't go like exploring and ghost hunting with strange men you don't know. I'm only joking, Jason, I'm only joking. But folks, we're going to get back into it here. And before the break, we were talking UFOs, then we got into some underwater shenanigans, and the two of them can link up. Because, of course, when you look at the planet, there's a whole heck of a lot more water than there is dry land. And if these vehicles can travel interdimensionally or faster than the speed of light, and there's umpteen reports, Jimmy gave you one that he's seen, a video. These things are every bit underwater, in my opinion. And if I was coming here, Scott, and I was setting up an outpost or something, it would be a no-brainer that you would put it underwater. I mean, us hairless monkeys, we can barely get to the bottom of the ocean, right?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it would... If you were to be, like, doing... I guess you could say reconnaissance or research on a planet, let's say, you probably would want to set up a base on that planet and keep it out of sight, right? Or keep it as hidden as you possibly can. Or like Jimmy said, maybe you've always lived on this planet. Maybe we're looking at the remnants of whatever civilization came before that had some kind of high technology that we just don't understand, right? And it's still being utilized by the remnants or whoever is left of that civilization. It makes me think of the movie The Abyss, right? Because that was all underwater.
Good movie. Good.
Yeah. And
now you're talking, man. Now you're talking. Because I mean, at those depths, it appears that light seems to be what the vehicle is. The vehicle doesn't have an existing like a metal form, but that the form itself is light itself, which is interesting.
You know, I heard a guy on it wasn't a guy, sorry, it was Richard Dolan. He was talking about a story, Jimmy, about alleged downed craft that was in the Pacific at one point, going back a good few years, man, decades, right? But it's quite a famous story. I didn't know about it, but there's a painting been done. But it's funny what you said there. It's like you talked about how it's light, how that's the vehicle. Basically, what this showed you in like the artist's impression was, and what the guy described was, I want to describe it as the predator effect. See, like, you could tell there was something on the bottom of the ocean floor. It was shimmering. And you could stand on it, but it was like you couldn't see it. It was like it was cloaked in some way, man. And like you said, I don't know, it was just something to do with they're not entirely, all of these vehicles, physical, or there's something going on with them that we just don't understand. And was Arthur C. Clarke says, if we don't understand it, it looks like magic. A shimmering thing on the bottom of the ocean floor that you've got to climb on top of and you can't see it, that looks pretty magic to me.
That's what I'm saying. It's a form of high technology or something that it's operating at a level that we don't understand, that we don't have any knowledge on what it, you know, how to mimic it or what it's doing. But I mean, you've seen these reports of USOs for hundreds of years. I mean, hell, even Christopher Columbus logged in his travels strange lights and stuff coming up from the surface of the ocean, you know. So, you know, these are things that have been seen and a phenomenon that has been witnessed for hundreds, if not thousands of years by people. And so there's definitely some strange stuff going on at the bottom of the ocean. There's strange stuff going on under the surface. And yeah, I think a really large percentage of these sightings probably are emitting from the planet, not coming to us from like outside, but it could just be originating from here on the planet itself. So,
any final thoughts, Jimmy, before I play this next clip?
Well, just in reference to the light and the vehicles and what we were just, you know, referencing there, I wanted to point out, you know, if you follow the concept of as above, so below, then if there's a rainbow of light that we can see, the spectrum of frequencies that's available to us that makes our world possible, wouldn't there have to be also then a rainbow, so to speak, in the dark? Different frequencies that are invisible to the naked eye but still exist in the dark space?
Probably. I mean, I would think, you know, kind of like the antimatter in a way,
exactly.
like the opposite.
Yeah. So, I mean, if, you know, what if, if there's so what I'm saying is if there's a such thing as a black hole, is there a such thing as a white hole?
Yeah. And supposedly you're right. And supposedly that's what the Big Bang was a white hole, and it create, you know, that's why they say if you go through a black hole, are you basically being ejected out into a new universe or another universe? Is it providing, you know, you go in one end and you come out the other, right? Like a negative and a positive end. Yeah, that gets into
maybe that blinking is the blinking that CERN tries to.
It's not on.
Tries to blink out from the white hole to the black hole and back again.
It's not on. Leave CERN alone. Leave it alone. Go and pick on one of the other ones. There's hundreds of them. Go and pick on them. Right, let's get to my favourite character, right? Don't worry, folks. When CERN starts doing some creepy stuff, I'll be there. I'll be right there. Not physically, but, you know, And talking of creepy stuff, let's go and take a look at what Luis Elizondo is saying. Now, we mentioned him in the first part of the show. Interesting character. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, but does that mean that everything he says is designed or is a lie? No. I'm sure a lot of what he's coming out with is absolutely truth, but it's trying to separate that signal from the noise. And then I found a clip today that's like one I've never heard from him before. And it's worth taking a little listen to, I think, anyway. So we're going to listen to him talking about, well, listen to this.
But what if for a moment mankind wasn't singular? Maybe just for a moment it's mankind's plural. Are we as a society even prepared to have that conversation? What if the things that make us human most, like emotions, love, empathy, are not necessarily unique traits to humans within the universe? Maybe other things can experience that too, and maybe the definition of being human isn't having 2 arms, 2 legs, and looking like this, or having a body, or having hair or no hair. Maybe being human is far more profound than that, and maybe those traits aren't unique to us.
So what do you think of that one, Scotty boy? Humankind, you don't need a body, we're deeper than that. Whoa, what are you on about, Lewis? You're going way past the tip now, my friend. Back off, Lewis, back off. That's way past the tip. Come on, Scott, what's he on about, dude? I mean, listen, everybody knows I think there's plenty of aliens out there. Many of the aliens that are out there are absolutely no hope in hell of getting here, just the same as we've got no hope in hell of ever even catching light from where they are. They're that far across the expanses of the universe, right? But they're out there, and I would imagine, like anything, you'll get good and you'll get bad. You'll probably get some that may have gone down a similar technological road to us. They may only exist in some digital, weird, wacky form like that now, I don't know. But I do think there's plenty of them out there now. Do I think we're getting the truth from Elizondo and his team? I don't know. I'm in a bit of a conundrum, Scotty. I really am. I want to believe, like Mulder says, I want to believe, but...
That's the thing with all of this ATIP stuff, right? I mean, we're being fed information that we want to hear. So it's hard for us to go, you know, but it's the whole point. It's the whole fact that, you know, we're being fed this information that makes it suspect. But in general, though, I mean, from what he just said, you know what I thought about it in context of, which probably, well, we'll kind of go. We'll take it woo, since Elizondo has went full woo with it. I was thinking about it in the context of all of these other humanoid species that we have shared our habitat with, in terms of like the stuff we talked about with Jason and with Max, and like the little people and the Anukin and all of the, you know, when we talk about how it was like Lord of the Rings, and you had like different species of humanoids living on the planet and kind of coexisting or co-inhabiting. That's kind of what popped in my head when he was talking about that. Like, we're probably not the only humanoid species out there to experience the same kind of emotions or traits, but you know, yeah, you know, that's just kind of the angle I was looking at that at. That, you know, where are a lot of these other humanoid species that have been talked about in legend and lore, that it seems like at one time they were much more prevalent and humans just kind of always knew about them, and we kind of coexisted, or we struck a balance with them. But now we don't really see them as much.
You look at the stories of the farmers that we've covered with those guys, you know, and we've done the little kind of people stuff. It seems like there used to be some kind of symbiotic relationship between many humanoid type things that were on the face of this earth at one point, Jimmy.
You mean organic robotoids?
No, I wouldn't class the Fae as organic robotoids. I would say maybe that's a fairer description for the Greys, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the lore, and it seems to me that it just, you know, at one point everything seemed like a fantasy story for little kids. You know, these stories that have been told down and passed down from generation to generation. You know, Jack and the Beanstalk, you know, giants, you know, fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I grind his bones to make my bread. Turns out there really was giants, and maybe they really were grinding bones to make some bread. So, I mean, yeah, these whole, you know, fairies, I mean, fairies in and of themselves are a wonderful experience if you ever have a chance to experience it. I personally
you won't anymore, because those pesky witches over on TikTok have cursed them, Jimmy. They've cursed the moon, they've cursed the Fae, which are also called fair people, and I actually thought for one moment they'd cursed the carnies, Scott. But they're cursing the sun now as well, so make the most of the little people.
What? Who the hell are these so-called witches?
Baby witches of Dick... Oh, I almost called it Dick Doc. Showing my age there, boys. Showing my age there, you know.
Just a tip.
I'll bring them up. I'll bring them up. I know people are probably thinking that Kev Baker, he's talking so much crap.
These sound like the most moronic witches I've ever heard.
Look. Witch talk. The baby witches on TikTok who claim they have cursed the moon and turned a community upside down. It is causing absolute pandemonium, thunderbolts and lightning in the whole witchy online coven community. They are at each other's throats. There's young wizards, young witches out there trying to change the ways. I always thought witches got on well with the moon. You know, you usually see them flying in front of the silhouette of the moon on Air Force One and Broomstick One and things like that. And now they're trying to curse it.
So the witches got woke? We got woke witches?
Yeah, they're trying to cancel the moon, man. They're trying to cancel that, the sun, and little people, Jimmy.
I'm going to go back to the city and live in my little dome with my friends and forget about all this.
Good. I know how we're going to forget about it, Jimmy. I know how we're going to forget about it. You kind of let slip to me in one of your Skype conversations one day that you've been through some pretty creepy stuff in the past few months. Have you not? Now he's trying to think, what did I say to him on Skype?
No, I know what I said. I just not sure if I want to go into any of that.
No, damn, dude.
No, seriously, just simply because. But yeah, no, I had some stuff going on, and seriously, talking about it is only gonna. I'd rather just let that lie if you don't mind, bro.
Whoa, the ooga booga, Scotty. Ooh. It must be strong.
Something, you know, when sleeping dogs are lying, sometimes it's better to let that. Don't bother that dog.
Don't get the. Will I not send the baby witches onto you?
Well, hey, you know, I mean, it's an interesting subject. You know, there's quite a bit of magic on the internet that's, you know, propagated through symbols and high-speed transmissions. So when you think about intention and focused intention of machines that don't stop and they just go 24 hours a day, pressing and, you know, transmitting, It's pretty intense. It's an intense subject. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I was talking about the online covens yesterday. I think my own personal take as somebody not trained in the way of the coven, but I actually think that it doesn't matter if you're together physically. In fact, part of me thinks it might even be stronger if you're doing it remotely, because you're like almost doing it across distance then, right? And you're all focusing on the same thing. They've done like mass meditations online and things as well, where they say they've had measurable results. I don't know, not looked at it all closely enough to tell you it's definitely a thing. So what do you think?
Well, I mean, you know that there's that thing. It's like the pink dot, and it's like constantly taking the temperature of the world and the color of the thing, you know. And I think they had something at MIT for a while where it was like a random number generator where it sort of picks up on the psychic vibe or the intensity of the emotion of the planet, you know. And like, for example, when 9/11 was about to happen, this random number generator, I guess, you know, displayed some sort of a synchronicity with what was going on in the world. So I mean, it's an interesting idea that, you know, the vibe or the static electricity generated out by the emotional content of what's going on with people's lives on the planet at any given moment seems to be really a powerful tool, especially like if you can gain or capture the imagination or the attention of that energy and focus that energy specifically on something.
Well, you think of
yeah.
Paulie was on the show and he was talking about his plants, Scotty, and talking about how you have this relationship with a plant. A good example, I think this is. He was talking about how even when you're not near your plant, maybe you're at work or you've gone out, but if you're stressed, right, if you're like kind of anxious, whatever, plant doesn't even need to be near you. It's like it gets entangled with you, right? And then you've got the story of twins as well. They can be like half a world apart, not in contact, but the minute something happens to the other one, they know it. Tells me that there is that psychic connection between everything, you know?
Yeah, you've become quantumly entangled with that object or with that person, right? So in the case of the plant, well, you've focused your attention on taking care of the plant and all of that, and you've created a bond with it, like a literal bond, not in some emotional or metaphorical sense, but you've literally became bonded to that object because you've quantumly entangled yourself with it by focusing your intent on it, you know. And this goes to like the water experiments that Japanese researcher did, right, where they looked at the crystalline structure of like frozen water after you've said, you know, you put like bad intent and put out bad vibes to certain samples compared to other samples, and you see that like the crystalline structure when it freezes is nice and like symmetrical when the intent is good, and then it looks all chaotic and messed up on the samples where people have said like negative things to the water samples, right? So just that in itself, you've quantumly entangled yourself. You've put your intent on something, and it goes to the experiments that say Art Bell and even George Norrie have done on Coast to Coast many times, where they have the audience focus on thinking about rain falling in a certain area where there's been like a drought or something. I know they've done that experiment, I think, quite a few times on Coast to Coast, and they've gotten results. Most of the time it ended up raining in those locations like the next day or a day later. So that's why Native Americans will do a rain dance, right? You go out there and they they do the ritual, they focus their intent on making it rain at that location, you know. So when it comes to all of this stuff online, it's the same thing. You manage to get a bunch of people to focus their intent on something, and you could possibly have an effect. So when you have a bunch of ignorant so-called witches focusing their intent on hexing the moon, it's probably not a good thing. But luckily, there's probably not very many of them out there to really have much of an effect, I would say. That this isn't some kind of a mass thing where I think you have a whole bunch of people deciding that they're going to hex the moon. You just have a small group of morons thinking that they're on TikTok that think that they're going to do something cool. Yeah, be edgy, be an edgy witch.
Well, it is the Harry Potter generation, isn't it? I mean, if you could point at one single thing that has had a massive effect on the population, you know, from a young age perspective, and sort of grooming young people for the idea of magic to be possible later on in life, I think it's a pretty interesting toss in. I mean, it's the same kind of a thing where you saw like Carlos Castaneda in the 70s, where they had this whole psychedelic thing where guys taking peyote and, you know, having these experiences, and that influenced a whole young generation to sort of think in a certain way. And then you have the same thing with the Harry Potter, but in heavy rotation. You know, it's gone from book to book to book to book to movie, you know, to the point where, you know, now it's at Disneyland and you can go there and, you know, pretend like you're a wizard.
It makes magic and the occult seem like a kind of trivial toy that can just be dabbled in and played with no consequence, or you know what I mean.
Hold that thought. We'll be back on the other side and we'll pick it up from there. Half of Freaky Friday gone already, but still half to go. Don't go anywhere. There we go. Now I can get a little drink of my coffee. Jump over to the chat over here. Luna will be with me 12 hours from now.
Oh, wow.
Me and Luna and Donnie and Jess, and if Ken wants to join in, Ken, you're more than welcome, because tomorrow we're going down under. Yes, indeedy. I think this is episode 3, I think, maybe 4 actually, but every time we hook up with this whole Australian vibe thing that we've got going on, it's one of the shows that it really kind of takes things to another level. I've said to you as well, Scott, you know, don't think it's lost on me that the level of information that we're getting from Australia. I know I like a laugh and a joke, probably more so than I should do at times. However, to be getting that information shared, not just with me personally, but with all of you out there, that's pretty special, folks. You know, sometimes you get people going to live with indigenous peoples anywhere, and they never get accepted. You know, you never get to hear the good stuff, as I call it. And yet, for some reason, Scotty boy, I don't know, man, some of the stuff we've been getting into on there, and the weirdness that it's kicked off in my life, and that's why I'm kind of looking forward to tomorrow, because I know it's going to set off a new set of synchronistic weirdness. Because things I'll have read about, or things they talk about, it'll just come across my path. It's the weirdest buzz that I get in any show, but it's a good buzz.
It's that quantum bond has been. It was already there. It was already sort of.
I think I must have been a kangaroo in an ancestral life or something, man. But a big fighting kangaroo, or a drop bear. Maybe it was a drop bear.
Hey, Kenny called into my show the other night because I got a phone number, and so he called in and he was talking about a bunch of stuff. I love Kenny Illuminati.
It's 11 and a half hours from now, Ken. 11 and a half hours from now. Yes, I don't get any rest around here. The Kev Baker show, it's like a juggernaut. It just keeps on going.
I can't wait. I'll be there for sure. Sounds like a fantastic time, man.
Yeah, and Lance is asking whether you're wearing Gilligan's hat.
I am, but it's a Gilligan's hat, but it's with a space theme.
This is my thinking cap now. This is now my thinking cap, man. There's a whole heap of hair under here, Jimmy. There's a whole heap of hair under here. Oh.
I'm Gilligan from outer space, man.
Tell you, man, I look like Blackadder. There used to be a TV show over here, Blackadder. People in the UK will be pissing themselves laughing right now. Like, you don't have hair like that, Kev. Oh, I do. It's growing, like, out the way. It's like I've got a bob. I can't wait to see your
Einstein, dude. When you take off the hat, I see the Einstein.
I'm not...
back with one white spark.
Telling you, it's not good, guys. It's not good. I'm telling you. Not a pretty sight at all. It's like I said to Anne the other day. It doesn't look like me in the mirror anymore. Somebody's come and replaced me. They've taken my hair, and I don't know.
I've removed hair from the top of my head, and it is now ejecting from my chin and my upper lip. So
I'm liking it, Scott. I'm liking the look. You're looking kind of looking rather rugged.
I know, so. Scotty. Man,
and I totally, in a very heterosexual, friendly way, you're looking rather rugged, Scott. Here we go. There's no broke back about here. Not since we got rid of Joe Joseph. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and go for it, Wookie. It's all yours.
Excuse me, it's man.
No, I can assure you the Wookie never ever said that. Never. What's happened to the Wookie? It's Freaky Friday. Things are getting a bit woke around here. Maybe the Wookie is having a bit of an issue. I don't know. But listen, we've got another half. Not another half hour, but the second half of Freaky Friday still to come. And then right after that, we have got Brent Thomas, and he will drag you through the paranormal portal. And then tomorrow, if you're up really early in the UK, it's not really early, really. It's because I live on, like, East Coast time in America. But 11 and a half hours from now, I'm literally going to be down under in Australia, kind of, by Skype. And we're going to be doing our monthly walkabout. Oh, and this is some of the deepest, most important, ancient link to modern woo that you could ever hope for. I'm really looking forward to that, as you can tell. So, guys, we've got another 3 segments to go here. I have got a plethora of stuff that we can get into. I've got one of the weirdest headlines I think I've ever come across on my travels looking for Freaky Fridays. Maybe we should start there. Check this one out, guys, right? Will I bring this up here? A Nobel Prize winning biochemist encounters an alien glowing talking raccoon. Now, come on, Scott. There's a headline. Jimmy Jean's saying, what am I doing on this show? See, Jimmy, this is
I'm just thinking. I thought I saw the same thing last night. I went.
Did you
I heard
see
a
one?
noise. I went outside.
Did you see one? Have you like had a like an official, genuine sighting of one of these talking raccoons?
Well, he wasn't glowing, but I didn't like the tone of his voice, so I got out of there, man. I think it was like 60 pounds. I'm telling you right now, man. They come out of the sewers, man. They're like they're huge, man.
If LSD isn't involved in this story, then I'm gonna be shocked.
I would imagine it is. So then, as far as scientific credentials, Dr. Carrie Mullis is beyond reproach. An accomplished biochemist, in April of 1983 came up with a technique to amplify parts of the DNA molecule called polymerase chain reaction, which could allow researchers to identify fragments of DNA and make unlimited copies of DNA. It was a game changer in the field, revolutionized the fields of biochemistry, molecular biology, medicine, and crime scene forensics. Not the same as Facebook forensics, or Reddit detectives. It's just crime scene forensics here. And won Mullis the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1993. Now, he was considered a genius by his peers, a brilliant, gifted scientist who commanded great respect, but he was also not without his eccentricities. Indeed, Mullis had a rather odd roller coaster of a life, sometimes described as Hunter Thompson meets Stephen Hawking, much of which he talks about in his memoir, Dancing Naked in the Minefield. Here, among stories of his various adventures, his love of, yes, Scott, you guessed it, that three-letter acronym, oh yes indeed, and scientific observations, there's a chapter called No Aliens Allowed, which outlines the time this world-renowned scientist had an encounter with a glowing alien raccoon. You could tell he had won his Nobel Prize by the time he'd printed this book, eh? But it says the otherworldly incident allegedly happened in 1985, when Mullis was staying out at his isolated cabin in a remote tract of wilderness in Mendocino County in California. Is that near you, Jimmy?
Yeah, that actually is near me, but that is the green triangle that you
Nice. Big shout out to Grover. Grover, big shout out to you and your homies. I know you guys listen in the green triangle. Yes, indeed. Very envious. How cool is that? We've got listeners in the green triangle. Just so cool. He had just arrived at around midnight. Dumped his stuff into... Isn't it, Jimmy? Pretty cool. Dumped his stuff into the cabin, turned on the solar battery-powered lights, and then headed out towards the outhouse, which lay just about 50 feet from the cabin. Now, according to Mullis, he would never actually get there, because his attention was captured by something strange out in the trees. No shit. Mullis says of what happened next. Are you ready for this, boys? This is going to be good, right? I walked down the steps, turned right, and then, at the far end of the path, under a fir tree, there was something glowing. I pointed my... Why did you have to point your flashlight at it if it was glowing? Surely there's light coming off it, right? He says anyhow. Well, I'll let him off. It only made it wither where the beam landed. It seemed to be a raccoon. I wasn't frightened. Later, I wondered if it could have been a hologram projected from God knows where. The raccoon spoke. "Good evening, Doctor," it said. I said something back, but I don't really remember what. Probably hello. It would be the natural thing to say. I mean, it's probably the done thing when you're having a conversation with a glowing raccoon. It's protocol, right? Say hello back. I don't know.
It's Rocket Raccoon from the Avenger from Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm gonna wet myself reading this. The next thing I remember, it was early in the morning. Oh, lost time. I hope that raccoon behaved itself, or at least took precautions. I was walking along a road uphill from my house. What went through my head as I walked down towards the hill was, where on earth's name am I going? I had no memory of the night before. I thought maybe I'd passed out and spent the night outside. But nights are damp in the summer in Mendocino, and my clothes were dry. And they weren't dirty. Oh boy, that there's the face of a man that got tampered with by a raccoon. Besides the missing time, he found he wasn't walking properly. I'm only joking, folks. He soon found out that there was a flashlight, or the flashlight, he'd been carrying was missing. And oddly, he was never able to find it. Oh, that seals the deal. When he got back to the cabin, the lights were still on, and the groceries he had brought were strewn around the floor. The clock told him that 6 hours had passed since he had headed towards the outhouse, and he hadn't the slightest idea of where he had been during that lost time. No, he might not have had an idea, but Scott, Jimmy, I'll hazard a guess. It had something to do with that 3-letter acronym that had seemed to have a pretty good time taking, right?
I have a feeling that he may have dropped one too many tabs.
Yeah, 1 or 10.
Well, hey, in other news, Man was admitted to the hospital with a flashlight in his anus. Filled adolescent.
That's why he's walking funny. So when he walked around the property, gingerly, trying to find any clues about what had transpired, he claimed he had come upon a spot that he used to love, but which now instilled a sudden fear and panic in him, which he called a place of dread. Yeah, a couple of hypnotherapy sessions, and we're going to find out exactly what took place in that area of dread, Scott, aren't we? It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be good, folks. We won't be able to talk about it on here.
You're just gonna hear the whisperings of a raccoon.
Yeah, let's just
saying,
say, like, you know, hey, raccoons too. All right, that's all I'm saying. He would long avoid this place, only to go back to this spot a year later and purge it with gunfire and profanity, shouting at whatever force was there to go away and blowing the absolute crap out of it with an automatic weapon. He writes of this quite entertainingly, saying, "My
wait. He just went to the spot and just started
he
randomly
let it like
dumping.
fester for a year, Scott. He let it fester for a year. Then one night you can just picture it. He thought, you know what? There's only one way I can beat this. I need to face my raccoon fear. I'm going to go back to that spot and I'm going to exercise myself, man.
This dude seems wild. Like, can you imagine partying with this guy? I mean, you would think that
He deserves a bit of X-Files music as well. Come on.
On the surface, just a boring scientist, you know, a boring biochemist winning the Nobel Prize. But boy, behind the scenes, we're talking about a party animal, man. We're talking about some.
Be hung out with Richard Allen Miller. What do you think, Jimmy? This guy sounds like him and the Doc would have got on even if they didn't know each other, right?
Man, glowing raccoons.
But hang on, I want to hear. Man, I really want to hear this entertaining take that he had on his like kind of freak out. So he says, "My D cells cut a clean beam into the darkest part of the forest. There was a giant old hollowed bay laurel growing right out of a little waterfall full of ferns. I was 50 feet away from it. I loved it, but it had become the focus of my fears. John Wayne at my side, wearing the same kind of hat I had donned for the occasion, said, 'Let him have it, kid.' And I opened up with my AR-15 and riddled the area of the laurel. 'Blow him to hell, kid.' It seems to have worked." He says that after that, the fear melted away and everything was normal again, as if the area had been exorcised. I told you, see? Rather bizarrely, Mullis then claims that he would find that he wasn't even the only person who had seen the otherworldly raccoon.
Oh, so now we have a second.
That makes it a whole lot more kind of credible. Unless he too was on LSD.
Didn't Alex Jones go berserk once about the glowing monkeys of China?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's those glowing monkeys where they mix like I think it's jellyfish and the chimeras.
Probably, man. It says here Mullis would later tell UFO researcher Bill Chalker that a friend of his had also had a strange encounter with the entity during a party at the cabin shortly after the Nobel Prize win in 1983. Now, hang on a minute. He's very specific about that. How do we know it's not like a travelling troupe of like really nefarious glowing raccoons? That's a bit much. It's a bit of a stretch to accuse him just because he's got forms, Scott, you know?
Well, he said his friend had this experience during a party at the cabin.
Yeah, why'd a bunch of scientists feel the need to go out into the middle of nowhere in the woods in Mendocino County and then get mad with it at a cabin?
I'm saying if you're all dosing from the same batch, you might have some of the same experiences and kind of feed into each other's vibes as well. Man.
Well, hey, listen. First it was 2 people, Jimmy, right? First it was 2 people. And then Brent Swanser, he went and wrote about this. And then there was thousands. And then we went and talked about it on a Freaky Friday. And it went right around the world. We might create A glowing raccoon. And there's something in that. As much as I laugh, we need to watch the news. We need to see if this becomes a thing. Because if this becomes a thing, we can say that we helped build this. We built this telpa. Yes, we did, Scott.
I'm all for it. I say let's do it because we already have raccoons on our property and we spot them every once in a while.
You could actually measure the luminosity of said raccoons. Go and take a base measurement, Scott, so we know. And then a week from now, we'll start buzzing away, you know.
If I start noticing some luminous raccoons running around my yard and speaking to me, I will definitely inform you.
Luminous manipulation. Another person.
Hey, it's the Illuminati.
Yeah, is it? I'm telling you, it's the Illuminati. The Illuminati
Hey, I just
go.
sent you some green.
That's all right, dude. That's okay. I'm still reading this now. Another person encountered a glowing raccoon between the cabin and the toilet. This was a friend of Mullis who did not know of the raccoon story and was a first-time visitor during a party at the cabin after the announcement of the Nobel Prize in 1993. Now, this man did not stick around and fled up the hill towards the house. On the way, he encountered a small, glowing man, which then suddenly enlarged into a full-sized man who said something like, "I'll see you tomorrow." Well, he probably didn't have a Glasgow accent. The man, who was not experiencing a drug or alcohol-induced hallucination, left with a friend without informing anyone. Now, Scott, we've only got the guy's word. Come on, we'll take him at face value. It's good woo.
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it that this guy went to a party in a cabin out in the middle of nowhere and didn't consume something. He at least had a sip of something. Let's just say.
That night, the man inexplicably found himself outside in the hotel car park, troubled and terrified by the impression he had somehow been back at Mullen's cabin.
Yeah, that's called a flashback, buddy.
He and his friend returned the following night to the cabin, and the celebratory party was carrying on from the previous night. Here, these Nobel Prize winners, they know how to throw a shindig, right? Hey, they've got like a creepy cabin in the wood. They've got like glowing animals.
So he went back, and they were still partying from the day before.
I bet that Craig Venter was kicking about. I bet he was one of his pets. I bet he knew all about the glowing raccoon. He probably spliced it with something glowing.
He brought it to the party. It was the party.
Exactly.
Somebody phoned up Venter. Somebody's like, phone Craig. Get him on the phone. Tell him we've got a newbie at the party. Craig, get down here with the raccoon. Oh, all right then. No bother.
Bring that glowing raccoon down here, man.
Not again.
Let's get this party started.
You know,
bring down that glowing raccoon.
Glowing raccoons and drop bears in Australia. I don't know. The world's going mad. So it says he and his friend returned the following night to the cabin, and this party was still going. And as the man arrived, he was shocked to see the full-sized man seen as an enlarging apparition the night before drive up in a car. So now he's real. So this was too much for the first-time visitor. He left in a panic, holding Mullis somehow responsible for the... Yep, he got spiked. He got spiked. He's admitting it there, right? He's holding him responsible. Sometime later, in tears, he revealed the full story to Mullis, who identified the man, his friend, he had seen as his elderly neighbour. Now, Carrie Mullis confirmed all this and more when I spoke with him recently, and Mullis checked with his neighbour, and sure enough, he had come to the party on the second night, arriving to be seen by the terrified visitor. However, he was certain he was not there on the first night, not in person, and not lurking as a glowing raccoon or a small glowing man that enlarged into a vision of himself. It's hard to tell just what's going on here, but it's all very strange. Also making it quite odd was the account related to Mullis by his own daughter, Louise. Now, hopefully the daughter wasn't getting a drink of the same shandy that was going around there. But according to Mullis, she had called him to tell him about Whitley Strieber's book on his own alien abduction titled Communion, and how she had her own similar experience that had happened to her out by the cabin. The same one where he had met his alien raccoon. So he goes on to say that, and just like me, she had wandered down the hill. She was gone for 3 hours. Her fiancé had spent the time frantically searching for her everywhere, calling her name, but she was nowhere to be found. The first thing she remembered was walking the same road on which I found myself, hearing her fiancé calling her name. She had no idea where she had been. So weirdly, Mullis had not yet told anyone of his own bizarre experience at the time, and Louise did not know of her father's own encounter at the cabin, and this call was completely coincidental. What does any of this mean? What happened to Dr. Mullis on that night, and what was that raccoon that he saw? Does it have anything to do with his daughter's experience there? In his own opinion, Mullis would describe the event to Chalker as a possible example of some sort of interdimensional interloper. And Chalker says of this, given this sort of activity on his property, it perhaps isn't surprising that Carrie Mullis told me he thinks the nature of his experience is even stranger than abducting ETs. Instead, he speculates about multi-dimensional physics, a la Michio Kaku's hyperspace in 1994, at a macrocosmic level. Like, anything can goddamn happen, and if the speed of light is not really the limit in terms of interactions with other cultures or whatever, this stuff about grabbing people or subjecting them to all kinds of experiments, it's just anthropology at a level we don't understand yet. Oh wow, do I not like that? I'm sure that must really fill any abductee. It must really cheer them up right away to be told it's just anthropology that you don't understand yet. It was only a probe, and I'm assured it was just the alien tip.
Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking was there's a party going on, everybody's tripping, and this guy's fiance disappears for 3 hours, and he's over there thinking she went to some dimension, but really she just met some smooth talking barefoot hippie dude who started to mesmerize her with a bottle of wine and some talk about the extra dimensional activity, and the next thing she knew, 3 hours just went by like that. I mean, it was like I looked at my watch and it was like I disappeared and came back. I don't know what happened.
Well, tell me, man.
Something tells me that there were lots of shenanigans afoot at the cabin. I'm just saying. But hey,
that guy doesn't get let into the club either because he freaked out. See, he doesn't get to go to the next. He doesn't come to the next party where the real stuff went down. You know what I mean?
He doesn't go to Bohemian Grove, which is right next door. So it says there is course.
He couldn't handle the glowing raccoon, so he gets he don't get to go to the next party. He don't get
he's not going to be a 33rd degree raccoon searcher.
33 lumens. I'm telling you, it's a 33 watt raccoon. There is, of course, the possibility that Mullis was simply pulling everyone's leg, and this was sort of a practical joke, but many who knew him doubt this. For all his eccentricity, he was seen as mostly reliable and an honest man who was not prone to just making stuff up on a whim. He was weird and wild, but those who knew him insist that he was honest about what he claimed. For his part, Mullis would stand by his strange story right up to his death on August 7th, 2019, staunchly denying that any of it was a prank or a hoax. And he would write of it, "I wouldn't try to publish a scientific paper about these things, because I can't do any experiments. I can't make glowing raccoons appear, I can't buy them from a scientific supply house to study, and I can't cause myself to be lost again for several hours. I don't deny what happened. It's what science calls anecdotal, because it only happened in a way that you can't reproduce. But it happened.
You know what? We could reproduce it, Mr. Mullis. So just open your mouth and we'll give you a couple tabs and we'll reproduce your experience.
So finish this off for the break, and then we've got an hour left to go. When talking about this incredibly weird story, it also has to be remembered that Mullis did have his fair share of drug problems, particularly with the LSD and mind-altering psychedelic substances, so perhaps this was all a bad trip. If that were the case, then why do we have corroborating reports from the same cabin and other people? And listen, if he's that out of his skull, bear in mind the guy just won a Nobel Prize, so he wasn't exactly stupid. Do you know what I mean? There is also...
Yeah, but Obama won a Nobel Prize too.
No, that's true. There is also the fact that in later years, Mullis became more and more interested in more fringe areas such as astrology, homeopathy, ghosts, astral travel, and he also disagreed with the notion of human-caused climate change. But this does not necessarily mean he would hallucinate a fluorescent talking raccoon. And we are still left with other reports that seem to show that something odd was going on at that cabin. Whatever it was, whether it be the sighting of aliens, interdimensional interlopers, love that term, a joke, or merely the tripping of balls, it was a rather impressively bizarre sighting for a man of such respected scientific standing, and it remains an odd anomaly that will probably we'll never really figure out. You better believe it.
Maybe it was legit. Maybe he really did have an experience out there with some kind of interdimensional glowing raccoon that was talking.
Hey, listen, you've got all the ingredients for me, Scott. Wacky scientists, a forest. That's me already convinced there could be. But I get it. Most likely it was. But here's the thing, right? Terence McKenna, often talked about the robot elves, things like that, little interdimensional interlopers that he would come across on his shamanic journeys.
But they're clockwork elves.
Yes, there you go then. There you go, right? See? Clockwork elves don't make them laugh, but a glowing raccoon does. I don't know, we'll be back on the other side, folks. We'll get to the bottom of this raccoon case, so we will. Don't go anywhere. Oh, that's a brilliant story. That is a brilliant story. I love it.
Hey, if they're focusing, what if it was a tulpa? That was
it is now.
Hey, check it out. I sent you some video. I sent you a video link of glowing sheep and rabbits and monkeys that you could show on video, but no one's going to see it on the radio, obviously.
Yeah, I don't tend to show videos on my stream, dude. I'll show the picture, though.
Yeah, there's an article there. That's the dude from Japan. They mixed jellyfish. I don't want to turn into one of these streamers that can only stream if I've got somebody else's content to talk about. No, I hate. You know what?
Kind of feels a bit like cheating.
You should say that. Yeah, no, it's funny you should say that because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Because a lot of people's broadcasts really there's nothing going on there except playing other people's material.
Dang, so Nobel Prize in chemistry. See, there's a connection. You see. The Nobel Prize, the Nobel Prize guy seen a glowing raccoon, and now there's a Nobel Prize being won by people for growing transgenic glowing animals.
I know, see, that's what I mean. They didn't let this dude in the club because he freaked out. We saw the glowing raccoon. They knew he couldn't take the real stuff that's in the cages back.
There's a weird kind of glowing connection between those two stories in a weird quantum conundrum-y kind of way.
Trippy, man. Yeah, it's creepy, man.
Yeah, it's almost like that first story got thrown in a blender and it came out the other end. Like, when did this happen? When was this?
This year? I'm not sure. I think it was a while ago. I remember Alex Jones freaking out.
It doesn't matter. You were spoiling my buzz, man. I was going to say if it was like 10 years in between them or 20 years. That's like some kind of nostalgia, weird loop thing going on there.
Not
It's
sure.
like, yeah.
I'm not.
The Matrix took that piece of old information, it took that scientist story, and it spat it back out in a different form. Telling you.
Well, the thing is, too, is maybe back then when they were talking about it, it wasn't even real. It was some concept, but they hadn't actually done it, and now maybe they're actually doing it here. I see the article, but I don't see it. I don't see when it came out at all. Let me click on it, see if there's something to click on. I don't see nothing. It says today the Nobel Prize Committee, but there's no date.
So have you guys heard about this this German U-boat or submarine that was sunk heading towards Japan back in World War II? And it was, I think they found it in 2003, and it was supposed to be carrying a crap load of like secret information and technology and stuff that they were trying to, because this was during the fall of the Reich, right? They're kind of their last ditch effort, and apparently this thing was loaded with mercury. The submarine was loaded with mercury, and I thought that was really interesting. If they were giving some secret technology or something to Japan, and they're giving them a crap load of mercury, what would that be for? You know, the first thing that popped in my mind when I hear about mercury and the bad guys in World War II is Der Glock.
The Nazi bell.
Yeah. And
here,
so,
I'll get this. Hey, you know what? I wanted to let you know. Oh, shoot. It's already, I can't let you know now. It's not enough time.
There we go. Here we go.
I'll get more info on this monkey thing.
There we go. We are back and we are live. There we go. I almost forgot the Wookiee. Big shout out to Anne, who is working night shift. I'm on night shift too, Anne. Look, see, told you I work. But yeah, she's listening in at her work right now. Get back to work, Anne. I know Freaky Friday's great. I know you want to put your feet up and listen to it, but what can I say? We've only got 1 hour to go. Now, I don't know if the guy really seen a glowing raccoon, but that's going to probably be the one story that sticks in my mind from this week. I can tell already. Jimmy's still on about glow-in-the-dark monkeys. What's happening here, Jimmy? Talk to me. Anything?
Trying to talk to you. So there is the article. That's a full article about the glow-in-the-dark monkeys. In November, Palo Alto's...
Way.
Cause Kev earned it.
There we go now. Somebody's asking what's this disclosure all about. You need to rewind. You need to go back to the start. The Pentagon have got crash retrieval stuff and all the rest of it. Come on, catch up. I'm only joking, folks, but no, we might be in the year of disclosure. But then again, last year might have been the year of disclosure. Next year might be the year of disclosure. We will keep our eye on what is coming out of the New York Times and the Pentagon and Luis Elizondo. And yeah, but if anyone's wanting to check into that, we talked about it in the first hour. We've kind of moved on since then. Green monkeys have become the topic of conversation. And the raccoon story was, when did it say, 1993? That's when he won his Nobel Prize, right?
Yeah.
Right, and this one was 2019. So there's like a weird kind of...
Yeah, but it says here in the article, it's nearly 2 decades have passed since Nur Zook, the founder of Chief Technology Officer, leading cybersecurity company Palo Alto Networks, left for rival Checkpoint, blah, 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 1999. None of this is personal. Zuck would later clarify his expansive interview. Talking to Zuck, he explains how they come up with these monkeys. So apparently this was a while back that they had these monkeys, and it seems to be coinciding with when this story came out in actuality. It's a trip.
I don't think that the raccoon has anything to do with the glowing monkeys in this story. I don't. It's an interdimensional interloper, like the man said, or a wild hallucination.
I'm an interdimensional interloper right now, but I'll tell you this. I think that, like, if you had the glowing raccoon and you're a bunch of, I mean, what do PhDs laugh about? I mean, what kind of practical joke could you play at a party, a bunch of scientists? You know what I mean?
Plenty of jokes. You're talking about scientists. They've got plenty of things that people like us could never think of, dude.
That's what I mean. To them, a glowing raccoon's a knee slapper. But to this guy, it was like he thought he saw an interdimensional interloper.
Glow in the dark monkeys and a man who cooks diamonds.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
There's a headline you definitely don't read every day. I tell you that.
I know. That's why I was trying to introduce it into the conversation, because I mean the headline struck me. Glow in the dark monkeys and cooking diamonds. It sounds excellent.
You want me to read it? Why don't you read it? You keep on finding them and telling me to read it.
Well, that's just because I love the sound of your voice. I'm used to being a listener. You know, I'm not used to being a reader. You know what I mean? I like to hear the Kev Baker. You got to have the Kev mechanics.
Telling you, man, it's hard work. You are, Jimbo.
Oh man, but just think about it. Just think of how juicy of a chunk that is.
Right, and if this story turns out, right, here we go. Glow in the dark monkeys and a man who cooks diamonds. So, nearly 2 decades have passed since Nir Zook 48, the founder and chief technology officer of leading cybersecurity company Palo Alto Networks, left rival Checkpoint software technology slamming the door behind him. Zuck was Checkpoint's third employee and later led development in the US before leaving in '99. None of it's personal, it's just business. Zuck would later clarify after a long and expansive interview. Still, talking to Zuck, one is left with a feeling that whether overtly or covertly, Palo Alto operates according to one simple rule. Whatever Checkpoint does, do the opposite. So in his central Israeli lab, the 73-year-old printing multi-millionaire Benny Landa is cooking real diamonds using a process he likens to alchemy. When will I retire? Landa asked during an October recent interview with Calcalist. My dream is that on my last day on Earth, someone will want to enter the lab and find the door jammed. When they finally get in, they'll discover it was my body on the floor that blocked it. Great stuff. And then it goes into stuff I'm not talking about. The biohacker, here we go, from dogs that glow in the dark to people messing with their own genetic code. Israeli filmmaker Lior Kaufman embarked on a journey to visit people who would rewrite DNA using technology they ordered online for only a few $100s. That there, I mean, what practical use is there to making a monkey glow? Look, I don't get that. I don't get what kind of life-threatening disease were they hoping to study by making a monkey turn green. What kind of... No, but where is... I'm not even being funny. Where's like the sense in that?
I'm laughing because I clicked on the read more and it says the biohacker from the garage next door. Like many other people, David Ishii's hobby evolved out of distress. A young man who lived in Mississippi and worked at a local gas field. He survived a violent robbery attempt by 2 armed men. Sometime after that, to fortify his sense of safety, he bought a Mastiff, considered the ultimate guard dog. Unlike many purebreds, the dog suffered from a genetic mutation that made it sick and tired. Disappointed, Ishii turned the dog breeding into hopes of creating a dog that would be up for the job. So apparently, I'm just gonna get to the you want me to keep going? Dog breeding has existed for millennia. He used CRISPR technology. to create apparently to create the genome for purebred dogs with hereditary diseases. He could cure that. So he did this in his garage. So, and I think, Scotty, you brought this up years ago, where the kit was like what, $500 for this kit, the gene splicing kit.
Yeah, this is like technology that anybody pretty much has access to. I mean, it's affordable enough to where if you have the know-how and the knowledge and a kind of a basic understanding of what you're doing, you can get one of these kits and tinker around, essentially do genetic manipulation in your basement, right? And that's where things get kind of crazy. I mean, you've got this I forgot his name, but he kind of is kind of put himself out there as like a genetic hacker or whatever, and he's doing a lot of experimentation on himself and stuff, and whatever, if he wants to do that's on him. But yeah, I mean, this ability now, it's out there. It's kind of like open sourced for everyone to mess around with if you really have the resources and the knowledge to do it.
It says later on in this article, this dude's trying to make his dogs glow in the dark. He's trying to edit the Medusa gene into his dogs and make them glow in the dark. But later on, just in the article, it says academic labs have already produced glow in the dark rats, glow in the dark cats that hunt the rats to compete in a menagerie glow in the dark of monkeys, sheep, and pigs. So apparently, hey man, these are the Illuminati of the animal world, I guess, Scotty.
As far as its uses go in like research, I think that they add the luminant, the glow in the dark sort of gene to these animals in order for them to be able to spot like cancerous growths and cells more easily, because it like stands out against some of the luminous, the luminance of the glowing. I know it's done for more like that kind of a research, but now that like your average person has access to this stuff, are we going to see like a niche market for like exotic animals that have like glow in the dark properties, right? It's kind of like was it in Blade Runner, right? They're like selling these kind of genetic glow in the dark animals or something on the side of the road,
anything goes, man. Let's genetically modify some short dudes with long arms to crawl in holes and pull out chunks of gold.
I mean, essentially, that's what that's what dog breeds are, right? I mean, it's years of humans breeding dogs in a way that bring out certain traits that we want, right? And that's essentially genetic manipulation, except we're just doing it the old-fashioned way of just breeding the animals. And now that we're able to actually tinker with the genetics, we can create an exotic species that has some kind of a trait that we want. And hey, I'm sure you're going to see a market for this kind of stuff where you have some rich.
It'd be kind of cool if you went to. It'd be cool if you went clubbing though. Like you looked all right until you went clubbing, and then you get like hit by a UV light, and you're like you got some stripy number going on or something like that, man. Some kind of cool tattoo that you can't see unless you're under the cool light. That'll be the next thing.
Well, that's definitely going to be the next thing. You can bet on that. But check this out. If you had one of these green monkeys and a Polaroid camera, you go down in some place. You don't even need a Polaroid. Just take a picture with the magic green monkey. $10, man. You probably make a couple grand a week.
Probably. Right. Let's get into some monkey. Creepy woo. The demon baby of the haunted Hull House. Yeah, total shift the gear there. Wow. So then, let's see what this is all about, shall we? Yes, indeedy. Don't know what I've not read it, so I've seen the name. I thought that put that in a folder. That's staying for freaky. So, sitting at 800 South Halstead Street in the city of Chicago, Illinois, is the historic Hull House, built in 1856 by Charles J. Hull. Now, at the time, it was an upscale area of the town, populated by the wealthy and upstanding, and the Hull family had a good life until Charles' wife died and Hull moved away. So the house remained and was passed on to other owners. But the surrounding area began to deteriorate in the aftermath of the Great Fire of Chicago in 1871. Now, I had no idea that was even a thing. No idea. So, which the house survived, but which turned the area into a slum. Now, there's people out there thinking right now, did it happen in 1871? Is it a new thing? Is it a Mandela? I don't know. The Hull House served for a time as a home for the elderly, during which time it was reported that the ghostly wife of Charles Hull still haunted this place, and indeed it would garner a reputation as one of the most haunted buildings in the city. Yet for all these spooky stories, perhaps one of the weirdest tales that's surrounding the house began in 1913, when it was said to be the home of a child sired by the devil himself. Ooh. Now, 1913. Yep, Aleister Crowley was kicking about back then. Oh, just saying. So I'm just saying. At the time, the house was owned by two women by the names of Jane Addams and Ellen Starr, who had made it into a sort of boarding house for smuggling immigrants, and from which they launched various programs to improve the neighbourhood and the citizens' quality of life. The area had in fact turned into a complex of 13 buildings and included day, nursery, gymnasium, dispensary, playground and several boarding houses. It was by all accounts a very successful operation and had made Adams a well-respected figure. But on one October evening in 1913, they would have an odd incident when a group of three Italian immigrants came to the door seeking out what they called the devil baby. Adams told them she did not know what they were talking about, but these three strangers were in a very excited, agitated state, and they insisted that they knew it was there, and that they knew where it came from and what it looked like, weaving a bizarre tale as they did. I've never heard of anything about this place before.
Wow.
It's a new one. So according to these women, the accursed child had been able to speak from birth and had cloven hoofs. Oh, dearie me. Pointed ears, a tail, and horns. That kid's going to stand out. I'm just saying. It's going to stand out. It's going to have issues. They explained how the evil child had been born to an atheist man who had married a pious woman, one day tearing the religious painting from the wall and saying that he would rather have the devil in his house than that imagery. He apparently got his wish, as his wife then gave birth to the demon child, and that child had spoken with a gruff voice of an old man and taken to tormenting his father and spewing profanity and obscenities. So according to these women, the father had been unable to deal with it all and had dropped the devil baby off at the Hull House as an orphan, where it had supposedly been locked away in the attic, and now they had come to see it for themselves. So imagine if somebody turns up at your door with that story, man. Three crazy Italian people, mamma mia, devil baby. It'd be like having Leo Zagami jumping about crazy on your doorstep on about like The Omen or something. I don't know. But I don't know, Leo. I've watched the film. I don't have any devil baby. I'm sure Leo Zagami had nothing to do with this. But
I'd be like, Leo, just come in and investigate. As long as I get to hang out with Leo, that's fine.
Exactly. We need to get him back on a freaky, man. He's never been on a freaky, but we could get him. Adams and Starr denied that such a baby, devil baby, It's even hard for my pure mind to say devil and baby in the same sentence, you know? Such innocence tarnished by that bad word had ever been brought to the house. And it took some time, took some doing to turn the women away. So convinced were they that the child was within those walls. When the strange women were finally gone, Adams did not get much of a chance for respite, as this would seem to have been only the beginning. Over the next several days, more and more people started showing up at the Hull house, demanding to see the devil baby, until there was a constant stream of people from all walks of life and all ages converging on the house to see the baby for themselves, and some even offering to pay handsomely for the privilege. You see, you don't need a green monkey, Scott, to make pennies off photos with, if you've got a devil baby. Just saying. That Adams constantly turned them away and denied that a child had ever been there, made no difference at all. And the stream of people grew with each passing day, sometimes even including doctors or scientists who had come to examine the abomination. Adams began to think that this must have been some sort of misunderstanding, and would say of it all, it sounds like somebody doxed her back in 1913. Sounds like she's been the victim of a horrible hoaxing campaign on really old Twitter that didn't exist.
Somebody may have started a little rumor and it started spreading like wildfire, and it got like really
Look at that picture. That is disturbing. Holy shimoly, that is disturbing. And yeah, I'm looking at a baby with like black eyes and black lips, and that's disturbing.
The abomination.
Yeah, I want to go and pray profusely, but hey, it says, I suppose a deformed baby was born somewhere on the west side. I think there's a bit of a difference between a deformed baby and one that talks, fully functional vocal cords, master of the language. Not only that, sounds like an old man, not to mention he clifty clops about on cloven feet. I don't know if that kind of deformed comes into it.
Did it come out of a woman or a goat?
Hey, at this point, we don't even know if there was ever a baby. That's what's really weird about this. So that to say, the way otherwise intelligent people let themselves be carried away by the ridiculous story is simply astonishing. If I gave you the names of some professional people, including clergymen, who asked about it, you simply would not believe me. So the crowds of people did not let up in the slightest. And this would go on for a full 6 weeks, and thousands of people making the journey, sometimes from all the way across the country, from Australia to Alaska, Norway to Nebraska. They were all going to see the Devil Kid, back before they could listen to the Kev Baker show, in order to see the now legendary Devil Baby. Can we call it Damien? Definitely Damien. They came day and night in such intense numbers that it was difficult to get any work done between turning these myriad curiosity seekers away. It was bizarre that such a story should spread so fast, and no amount of denial could convince those who truly believed it. It was astonishing to Adams, and she began to see it as a reflection of social problems that had manifested in myth-building past by word of mouth. And Adams would write, although the visitors to the Devil Baby included people of every degree of prosperity and education, even physicians and trained nurses who assured us of their scientific interest, the story constantly demonstrated the power of an old wives' tale among thousands of people in modern society who are living in a corner of their own, their vision fixed, their intelligence held by some iron chain of silent habit. To such primitive people, the metaphor apparently is still the very stuff of life, or rather, no other form of statement reaches them, and the tremendous tonnage of current writing for them has no existence.
Very, very interesting tale that applies to this day.
Isn't it? Isn't it just very?
How people can fall for something and get wrapped up in something.
And how it can grow legs and arms and tails and cloven feet. And so it says throughout 6 weeks, as I went about Hull House, I would hear a voice at the telephone repeating for the 100th time that day, "No, here is no such baby. No, we never had it here. No, he couldn't have seen it for 50 cents. We didn't send it anywhere because we never had it." I don't mean to say that your sister-in-law lied, but there must be some mistake. There is no Sue getting up an excursion from Milwaukee, for there isn't any devil baby at Hull House. We can't give reduced rates because we're not exhibiting anything, and so on and on. As I came near the front door, I would catch snatches of arguments that were often acrimonious. Why do you let so many people believe if it isn't here? We've taken 3 lines of care to come, and we have as much right to see it as anybody else. This is a pretty big place. Of course, you could hide it easy enough. This is almost like when we had like a big story flying around on the internet a couple of weekends ago, and the people were coming out themselves and saying, hey, stop posting your stories, I'm here. And yet the people were going on to the comments going, no.
I'm saying,
yep, no.
What I'm saying is that even when presented concrete proof that, hey, look, this baby isn't here, right? This is all, I'm sorry, but you must have gotten wrapped, this is all a big misunderstanding, and people still refuse to believe it, right? People don't want to admit that they've been duped. That's the problem. And people don't want to admit when something has gotten the better of them, because it makes them feel stupid. People don't want to feel stupid. So they would rather argue and force themselves to believe something that isn't true in order to not feel to not feel stupid. And people will go to great lengths, to believe in something. It's crazy.
Or if something proves what they believe to be real, something that proves that their fantasy or that what they believe to be real, it proves them to be wrong about what they think, and that causes their bubble to burst. Scotty, don't burst their bubble.
Yes, sir.
We'll be back on the other side. 1 segment to go. And that's it. We'll hand over to Brent Thomas. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. There we go. Get a drink of coffee. I shall be back in 2 minutes.
I put the Homunculus thing in there where it talks about the first
back
known
in a minute,
account.
man. I'm going to put the coffee on.
Yeah, man. You got to take that one, Scott. Take that one when we come back. That article right there, talking about the Homunculus creating with human semen and a cow or a ewe, create this thing, dude. It's sick. Check it out.
Didn't Jack Parsons? Didn't he die or something trying to create a homunculus? There was like an explosion in his.
I'm not sure about that, man, but I think Aleister Crowley was trying to create these homunculi as well. I think a lot of people create them, man. It's sick. It's crazy. I mean, when I say sick, I don't mean cool. I mean, when you read it, you'll see what I'm saying.
It is. It's insane, like what they're.
And you can show that picture too. Kev could show it. It's got 2 pyramids on one side, facing up, 2 on facing down, and there's a bottle with a dude with wings in there. It's like an angel, and there's crows around the bottle and a flame down at the bottom. It's pretty sick. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah, man. So
yeah, the whole thing with the homunculi or whatever, however you pronounce it. I always have a hard time pronouncing homunculus or whatever.
That's what that baby's face reminded me of. Immediately, I was like, man, is that a homunculus? You know what I mean? 'Cause that's a weird looking baby, man. That's a black-eyed children right there.
I was about to say, yeah, that baby's going to grow up to be a black-eyed child knocking on someone's door asking if they can borrow their phone or whatever.
You know what you do with the black-eyed children, right? You show them the two fingers like this. You say, hey, look at this. Boom! And you just poke those out.
You do that, I'll be running, Jimmy. I'll run to get the car started. You do whatever you do to them.
Hey, Kev, look at the artwork on that homunculus. There's an angel inside of the test tube. He's creating a homunculus, but there's an angel inside the test tube, and there's a snake in there, it looks like, I think.
From that good website, too, Ancient Origins.
Yeah,
Great
man.
Website.
It's good stuff. That kid was a homunculi.
Where did we get to here? Yeah, there it was. Oh, one segment to go. Dang, it's all catching up now.
Quick,
it has gone quick, it has. I'm back on in 10.5 hours. Yeah, 10.5 hours. I will be back here. The link is already on the channel, folks. So you can grab that off the channel anytime. It's there. And Luna, Donnie, Jess, maybe Ken as well. It's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be pretty good.
Gonna be killer, man. I can't wait. I'll be there.
Indeedy. Yes, indeedy. Sorry, I was just reading something there.
No problemos, amigos. Vámonos.
Indeedy.
Drinks for all my friends.
Oh, here we go.
Oh.
One of these times I'm going to forget to come back altogether and just forget that we were on a show, but we have got one segment remaining. And I tell you, it's been a pretty wild, freaky Friday, all the way from disclosure to creepy devil babies, a homunculus on the way. I've had fun. You had fun, Scott?
Oh, dude, it's always fun. It's always fun on Freaky.
Jimmy?
Got Jimbo back. So, you know.
Hey, man, I'm having a great time. I mean, my green monkey is doing backflips over here. I'm just waiting for the... Seriously, I'm just waiting. You know, I mean, I think I'm going to get me an organ grinder. And, you know, grind the organ and with my green monkey.
Well, let's get back
if
to...
you're grinding the organ, would that be spanking the monkey?
No idea,
I don't know.
man.
I can't tell.
So we're going back to the...
Monkey alone, will you? Leave them alone, man. They didn't do anything.
Back to the devil boy or the devil baby or...
my God, man.
whatever it says. So, it said we had doubtless struck a case of what psychologists call the contagion of emotion, added to an aesthetic sociability, which impels any of us to drag the entire household to the window when a procession comes into the street or a rainbow appears in the sky. And she would write much of the odd incident in later years, even submitting a report to the American Journal of Sociology, and would write a very detailed and contemplative article about it in the Atlantic Monthly, which you can read here. And she would ponder it all at length in her writings, and would at one point write of it, many of them who came to see the devil baby had been forced to face tragic experiences. The powers of brutality and horror had full scope in their lives, and for years they had acquaintance with disaster and really bad stuff. Some of these old women had struggled for weary years with poverty and much childbearing, had known what it was to be bullied or beaten by their husbands, neglected and ignored by their prosperous children, and burdened. During the weeks of excitement, it was the women who really seemed to have come into their own, and perhaps the most significant result of the incident was the reaction to the story upon them. It stirred their minds and memory, as with a magic touch. It loosened their tongues and revealed the inner life and thoughts of those who are so often inarticulate.
You know what? Before you go on, don't you see a certain demographic that seems to be targeted by a certain LARP out there?
Yep. They're the same ones,
Just
yep. Big time. One result from the hypothetical visit of the devil baby to Hull House will, I think, remain a realization of the sifting and reconciling power inherent in memory itself, at least during the weeks when the devil baby seemed to occupy every room in Hull House. What's up, Jimmy?
Nothing. It's just every time you say devil baby, it makes me laugh, man, because it reminds me of that dancing baby that used to be everywhere. I can just imagine it popping these horns out and his eyes turning black every time you say devil baby, the abomination. I mean, it's nasty,
watch,
man.
one might come and get you, man. One was conscious that all human vicissitudes, bloody big word, are in the end melted down into reminiscence, and that a metaphorical statement of those profound experiences which are implicit in human nature itself, however crude in form the story that may be, has a singular power of healing the distracted spirit. Well, that was a pretty deep kind of thought on the whole matter by the woman at the heart of it. The whole fiasco would die down as suddenly as it started when newspapers began to pick it up and pick the story apart. And pretty soon no one else was coming to Hull House looking for demon babies. Bizarrely, in later years, the tale has sort of continued in a sense, with the house later renovated and reports of the ghostly wail of a baby continuing or coming from the walls. Although the boarding school closed down in 2012, it is now run as a museum that is become popular for ghost hunters looking to investigate its haunted past. What caused all of these people to suddenly lose their minds and converge upon this place? That is a good question. What was the real story behind the devil baby? And what was behind all of this? Was this an urban legend, mass hysteria, or what? Nobody really knows. And it remains a strange historical oddity and anomaly that we may never really truly understand. I'd love to know how it got started, though. You know?
It could have been somebody just kind of making something up at first and spreading a little bit of a rumor or a scary story or something, and it got out of hand. You got to wonder, like, were these initial 3 Italian women that first came, the very first visitors, like, where they heard this from? Or was it them maybe that began to propagate this, saying that they knew that the devil baby was there and that they weren't let in, and so they started spreading this story amongst the community there, and it got much bigger, and then more and more people bought into it, and then people start going there demanding to see the baby and all of that. It almost, like I said, it reminds me of a lot of stuff that's going on right now, actually. It's just you're seeing this sort of trait in human behavior take shape in a different form.
Yeah,
right.
Different times, there's a different smell to it,
You have people focusing on a location in DC, right, that sells pizza.
Yep.
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and like I said, that target demographic, the ones that seem to really buy into it, and it invokes some kind of an emotional knee-jerk reaction, and once you've been sucked into that, like I said, it's hard for people to admit that they've been duped, that they've been played, and so
they all need to live through a bit of the ambassador, then they'll know. Then they'll know. They need to take a leaf out of the Kev's ambassador manual. That's not easy. It's not easy being wrong, boy, when I'm wrong. Oh, boy. Homunculus. Brilliant name. The alchemical creation of little people with great powers, Jimmy.
I know. Well, look at it, man. If you asked me earlier when you were describing that kid, and then when I saw those eyeballs, I immediately thought of a sheep's eyes when I saw those eyes, and that's why I was wondering where it came from, and then it dawned on me, man, maybe it's a homunculus.
So it says, although science has made much, and the reason I was looking about there, I was hearing somebody walking about, but it's my cat. I almost thought there was need to get Bill Bean on the case, but no, it's just the cat. And no, I've not heard any more voices while I've been in the toilet, folks, so touch wood. Whatever that was, it's even more disconcerting that it stopped. I would have rathered I'd found it was like some weird acoustical effect that was coming from something, and there it is, there's a scientific explanation. But hearing Anne talking to me twice in the toilet, only for her to go, no, not talking to you. And now it hasn't happened again, Scott. I thought it might be the pipes. I thought there might be some noise with the pipes, but nothing's happened to the pipes and no more noise. So I don't know. The more I talk about it, the more it worries me. So let's get into some other people's woo. Keep it away from me, thanks. Although science has made much progress in the last century, there are still numerous ethical issues that need to be addressed by the scientific community. One such issue is that the creation of artificial life. For some, this is the logical progress of scientific knowledge. For others, it's a realm that should not be intruded by human beings. Concepts relating to the creation of artificial life, such as genetic engineering and human cloning, are relatively modern scientific ideas, but in some corners of Reddit, it's a booming industry. In the past, however, it was in the field of alchemy that medieval scientists sought to artificially create life. One of the beings that alchemists were purportedly able to create was the homunculus, meaning little man in Latin. And the homunculus is first referred to in alchemical writings of the 16th century. It is likely, however, that this concept is older than these writings. The idea that miniature, fully formed people can be created has been traced to the early Middle Ages, 400 to 1000 AD, and is partly based on its Aristotelian, wow, that's a tough one, Aristotelian belief that the sperm is greater than the ovum in its contribution to producing offspring. A very toxic thought indeed. I like that one. Very toxic, Scotty boy, right?
Very patriarchal, toxic male outlook on that.
I'm making the most of my toxicity. Tomorrow I have to step into the world of a matriarchal system where my toxic Kev gets put in the drawer, polite Dave comes out, and I know my place. I know my place.
There's these little monsters that you can create without the ovum aren't too tasty.
No, probably
These
not.
things come
Probably
out
not.
like monsters.
Why would do? You don't want to be messing with any of these little things, Jimmy. You don't want to be messing with them.
No, man.
No.
You don't want to leave any sharp knives laying around once they're out of the test tube either.
So it says the first known account of the production of the homunculus is said to be found in an undated Arabic work called the Book of the Cow. Now, Scotty, why couldn't we have found that last week, eh? That would have totally played into our confirmation bias there, so it would. Purportedly written by the Greek philosopher Plato himself. So Plato, he knew the genius of the big cow in the field. The materials required for the creation of the homunculus include human semen, a cow or ewe, or animal blood, whilst this process includes the artificial insemination, turkey baster, of the cow, ewe, smearing, right, we don't need to get into all that. The pregnant animal would eventually give birth to an unformed substance, which would then be placed in a powder made of ground sunstone, a mystical phosphorescent elixir, sulfur, magnet, green chutia, a sulfate of iron, and the sap of a willow tree. Ah, you see, I remember the day I forgot the sap of the willow tree. It all went horribly wrong. When the blob started growing human skin, it would be required to be placed in a large glass or lead container for 3 days. After that, it has to be fed with really kind of crazy stuff before becoming a fully formed homunculus. Very good. The Book of the Cow, there are two, or in the Book of the Cow, not just the Book of the Cow, but in the Book of the Cow, there are two similar procedures for producing said homunculus. Instead of the cow or the sheep, a female monkey is used in one, and an unidentified female animal in another. Additionally, different ingredients are used for the powder, and the incubation period of the blob in the vessel is extended to 40 days. I find it quite interesting how it almost they're kind of borrowing from religious type kind of numbers there. 3 days to raise from the dead, we're told, for Jesus. 3 days in one of these accounts, you shove it in a tomb or a box and it'll be ready. And then the other one, 40 days. Doesn't 40 days, is there not something about 40 days in the Bible as well?
Yeah, 40 days and 40 nights it rained or whatever.
Yeah.
Noah was, genetically modifying some relatives on the ark to populate the earth, I think.
So it says here, I agree with you, all three types of homunculus have their own specific functions. And the first type of homunculus may be used to make the full moon appear on the last day of the month, allow a person to take the form of a cow, a sheep, or even an ape, allow one to walk on water, and know things that are happening far away. The second type of homunculus can be used to enable a person to see demons and spirits, as well as converse with them, whilst this last type can be used to summon rain at unseasonable times and produce extremely poisonous snakes. So on you go.
I was going to say the second one is the one that seems to be used in magic. So to create this homunculus into some sort of a golem or some sort of a entity that can receive the demonic entities from the other side type of thing. I think it's that second one. I'm not sure, but it seems like that makes sense. The one that Crowley used.
Yeah, that makes sense. 16th century alchemist Philip von Hohenheim. Philip von Hohenheim. Yes, known as Paracelsus. That's what he's getting called now anyway. Provides a different recipe for creating the homunculus in his work De Nutra Rerum. I probably butchered that as well. The recipe uses a horse as the surrogate mother of the homunculus, and the semen of a man is left behind or inside the animal's womb to putrefy for 40 days before a little man is born. Wonder if he went to live in Chicago in a house in Hull House. I'm just saying, the little man. Just saying, maybe that's where the rumor started.
Come on, little man, let's go play some baseball.
Rather than using the homunculus to perform magical feats, Paracelsus instructs that the homunculus ought to be educated with the greatest care and zeal until it grows up and begins to display intelligence. I don't know, something like talking when it's first born. I know we're mixing up the two stories here, right? I know that, I get that. But that's
it's the same thing.
it's a sign of intelligence, you know, definitely. I've gone and clicked that. Hang on.
I think it's the same thing. I mean, this kid was talking like a man, and he was only a baby. You know what I mean? So he's hey, little man. How you
What
doing?
was the weirdest thing about that baby, though, right? Okay, pretty unnerving that he's talking like an old dude. But I don't know if I would be able to even hear him talking the minute I seen he had, like, cloven feet, a forked, like, tail. I mean, there's so much going on with that story, Scott. I don't even know if I'd have heard the thing's voice, you know?
Yeah.
Bill Bean, right on the phone. Bill, I need you here, big man. There's like something not right about this one, you know?
He was smoking a big old fat Cuban cigar.
Telling you, man.
He had a gangster brim on.
Guy's been like chained in the abyss for like millennia. He was just enjoying himself when he got to party in Chicago. Who knew? Paracelsus also claims the procedure for making the homunculus is one of the greatest secrets revealed by God to mortals, perhaps suggesting that the creation of artificial life is divine wisdom that may be used by humans. Scientists today dismiss the work prescribed by the Book of the Cow. Imagine my surprise. And Paracelsus de Natura Rerum as mere fantasy, while others suggest the writing was intended to be taken symbolically rather than literally, and contains hidden messages regarding the process of spiritual ascension. Nevertheless, the goal of producing the homunculus, i.e. the creation of artificial life, is a quest that some are still pursuing today. Oh, yes. Can't beat a bit of homunculus on a Freaky Friday.
What if that's what's really going on, Kev, with these cattle examinations?
Hey, good. I'm open.
What if you notice how it's the reproductive organs that are surgically cut out of the cow and the blood is drained?
You know, one day soon these really small, nasty, cloven hoofed little people are gonna like come back, that they're gonna invade. You know that, don't you, Scott? They're all like up there on a mothership somewhere.
It just seems like everything that's needed for the production of a homunculus, as far as the cow goes, seems to be what is removed during one of these cattle examinations. Just say it.
I want
kind of
the
interesting.
audio version of the Book of the Cow.
You know what I found out today? And it's really, to me, very interesting. And it ties in. It's disclosure. You know, Night, you were disclosing early on, disclosing what's going on with these unidentified tic-tac type objects and so on. Well, did you know in Aramaic, the word for Orion, as in Orion's belt or the star cluster of Orion, is Nephila?
There you go then, eh?
And you know that it says, which means that the Nephilim, race of giants, were descendants of Orion. So, which is interesting because there's a lot of controversy around the sword of Orion and the third star in Orion's belt and the planet Earth. So it's an interesting
Yeah, it is very interesting. And then how many sites are lined up to Orion's belt, right? I mean, how many of these locations are built in order to line up with that astrological feature, and then you have the origin.
Very similar word, which means the fallen ones, and it says the etymology is uncertain, but the Nephilim could be then identified. You would know when the Nephilim were here when the Orionoids meteor shower happens. So it's interesting. Fallen angels, meteor showers, UFOs. Man, this is Freaky Friday. Just like I always loved it, man. Thanks a lot for having me, you guys. I'm stoked. I had a good time.
It's always good, man, because the woo always flows. It always flows, and it always comes back around in the end too. We always find a way to wrap it up, and everything comes full circle. That's what's crazy about.
Some weeks I don't even remember what we started on, Scotty. I tell you, how it comes together, I have no idea. Yes, indeedy. And of course, somebody in the chat room talking about the meteor showers this fall. Well, we'll see in the fall, won't we? I'm not going to be running for the hills just yet.
Well, they did fire a rocket.
I've seen.
They just fired a rocket called Hope, and some people are saying it's just like a plot to one of these movies. This rocket's maybe going to go up there and deflect something, keep us from getting hit.
You can say that about every rocket that goes up every day, But hey, people got to get their clicks in. It's going to be Christmas soon, We've got to have that kind of the next big non-story to come along. And I can guarantee at the heart of the next big non-story, there's going to be FEMA whistleblowers. There'll be this whistleblower, that whistleblower. Oh, this whistleblower. 23rd, and you won't get to see any of them. You won't get to see any of them, folks. You know what? Me and Scotty Lopez will be here in October, November, December, and the next year. And we will keep on chalking off every single one of these failed predictions. It's like
nothing,
the mass
the 23rd yet?
Yeah, it's like the mass arrests. They always keep on coming. But they never just seem to give, I tell you, it's a gift that never gives. And
See, if you plan on September for now, there's a whole bunch of time between now and then you could buy storable food and vitamins. So September's a good month.
Yes, indeed. Now, we're almost out of time, and we're going to hand over to Brent Thomas. Don't forget, you can join me tomorrow morning or just in the afternoon here in the UK. 1 p.m. in the UK. I believe that's 10 p.m. in some parts of Australia. But it's huge. Stay tuned right now, folks. Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal. We are out of here. There we go, boys. There we go. That was good. But I am absolutely bushwhacked. So, yes. Enjoy that one, Scotty boy.
Oh yeah, Dan. It was good. Good being back with you and Jimmy and
I had fun. Thanks, you guys. That was a good time. Everybody's enjoying themselves, I think. Everybody had a good time.
Yeah,
getting into some good topics. And
hell yeah. All right, well, I got to go live in a few hours, so I got to go get something to eat.
Same here.
I'm going live.
All right, man.
I'm going to go live at 10:30 Pacific if you guys are anybody's still up and they want to join me.
Oh, I will be sound asleep. Oh.
No, I don't mean you. I mean the listeners. There's a bunch of listeners hanging. So maybe Lewis will come over and Big D. I think Epic Journeyman will definitely be there. Hopefully.
And we'll be back.
I love you guys. It was so great to be here with you, Scotty, man. I missed you, bro.
Awesome.
And I'm stoked.
Man.
I thought that body slam. I thought that slam dancing thing you were doing, the death wall, man, did last week was funnier than hell too.
I did. I figured if you were watching, you would understand that back in the day it used to be called slam dancing before it was.
That was crazy.
The mosh pit.
That was shenanigans of a rock variety.
Well, hey, dude, I'll be there for your Australia extravaganza tomorrow for sure. Can't wait. And Luna, I can't wait to hear everything you guys got going on. So.
Yes, I'm not sure if Ken's going to be joining us or not, but if you're around, Ken, I'm sure you're more than welcome. I don't know if you've got a camera, I'm not sure.
He's the snake whisperer, man.
Yes, indeed. And on that note, I am getting out of here because I need to get to my bed. I would say beauty sleep, but that ship sailed decades ago. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for all the super chats. Really, really appreciate it. Please, if you can, join us again 10 hours from now when we'll have the Australian mob on. See, I've even got all the language and things right now. And I promise I won't try any crappy Australian accents tomorrow. Scott, it's one thing when me and you try an Australian accent when there's no Australians around, but then when you're surrounded by Australians, you're like, well, I'm not trying that. Not now. Not like that. Oh, heck no. So, folks, thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if disclosure's coming our way or not, but I tell you what, we have to keep watching every single word that comes out of the people who say they're bringing us disclosure. There's an agenda. There's something behind it. How do I know that? Well, they've decided to tell us for a reason. It's not because they've thought, you know, was that Kev Baker and all the audience, Scotty Lopez, they need this stuff. They're running out of content. No, we're not. And no, they never had that conversation. So I want to know just why. And of course, all of that at the same time is what we've got, or what I would call controlled, contrived disclosure going on through TV shows on the History Channel that connect right back into the same people that are bringing you the disclosure with Tic Tac. I'm just saying, question everything. Use your discernment. Try and read between the lines. But when it comes to this, we're dealing with career-long spooks. Misinfo, disinfo, psyops. But in there somewhere is something to take away. The kernel of truth is in there. The question is, are you going to find it? Think about it. Test it. Talk about it to people. Listen to shows. And see just what you think. Because in the end of the day, it only really matters what you think. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Because you are the most important person on your ride. And in the end of the day, it's all just a ride. And on that note, we are out of here. Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. And I definitely need better tunes than it was on earlier on. They were pretty grim. Pretty grim. Where are we? Here we go.
Rocky Raccoon.
Well, that sounds like some Rocky Raccoon music. Edit, Raccoon.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
I was talking to a raccoon, you absolute.
How dare you?
It wasn't me, Greta. It was all the raccoon.